What's up everyone, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto loved by fire Daimyo wife? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. It's been 7 years since the night of the Kyuubi attack. Konoha is flourishing since the attack. But today was a very special day for the Hidden Leaf. For today the fire Daimyo is coming on an official visit to check how Konoha is doing after the attack. The fire Daimyo arrived at the Leaf Village, but it was already night time. His carriage was heading towards the Hokage Tower where the Hokage is waiting for his arrival. But the fire Daimyo suddenly heard the crying of a child. He quickly looked outside his window and in a dark alleyway, he saw a blonde-haired child with blue cerulean eyes and rags for clothes. He quickly ordered his guards to stop the carriage. He walked outside and went to the child. Naruto POV. I was crying after some villagers came and yelled at me and then proceeded to hurt me again. While I was crying I saw a person walking towards me. I stood up and hid behind the dumpster. The person came and told me that he wouldn't hurt me and I saw him give me a sincere smile just like Hokage Gigi. So I came from behind the dumpster and talked to the kind man. He asked me who I was, so I just said, Naruto, the name's Naruto Uzumaki, Daimyo. But then all of a sudden I saw black and fell back. Fire Daimyo POV. I was talking to the boy now identified as Naruto Uzumaki. But something about him was familiar. I was so lost in thought that I didn't notice he was falling down. I was brought out of my thought when I heard a loud crash. I panicked and then turned around and ordered my guards to take the dear boy to the physician and watch him. I was thinking that after the meeting with the Hokage I will go visit the boy. I then went into the carriage and proceeded to head to the Hokage Tower. I saw the Hokage and a group of people waiting for me. And in my mind, I was like, great hell is gonna be loose in the council room. Nobody's POV. Naruto was taken to the hospital by the fire Daimyo's guard. When the guard got there the doctors refused to treat the boy. So the guard just threatened them that if they don't treat the boy they will face the fire Daimyo's wrath. The doctors were scared shitless so they just treated Naruto and told the guard that he was doing fine. It was just a few stab wounds and they weren't life-threatening. The guard thanked the doctor and went to check on Naruto. When he went into the room he went and looked Naruto over and surveying the boy. He saw that made him freeze in his tracks. He saw the necklace and ran outside of the hospital room as fast as he can and told one of the guards to protect Naruto with his life. Fire Daimyo POV. I was currently sitting in the council room, and man was this boring. I was knocked out my thought when one of my guards burst through the door and came to me as fast as he can and told me what he had saw. I was surprised, happy, and angry? Had the Hokage knew this all along and didn't tell me. I was happy I finally found one of my descendants through Akihito. But who was this kid and who was his father's name? I quickly told the Hokage that this meeting is finished and that it will be continued some other time when I am available. I went to the hospital as fast as I can and went into the room the boy was being held. I saw the malnourished body of the boy and felt sad and furious. I then saw the necklace and was frozen in place. I thought the guard was just lying and yet the necklace is where he said he saw it. I then ordered one of the guards to do a blood test to see if there is a match. The guard quickly went away and I saw this as a perfect opportunity to overlook the boy's life. Third Hokage POV. When the fire Daimyo went out I cursed under my breath that I won't be able to complete reading my precious Icha. But I wonder where would the fire Daimyo go at this time? Was he sick or something? Oh well, I gotta go finish the damn paperwork. The fire Daimyo was so happy in finding his grandson from his long-lost son, Akihito. He stayed in the hospital room waiting for the time Naruto woke up. He was thinking of how to make Naruto ascend the throne as his successor. I mean, he does have children from his many concubines, but none of them were worthy of ascending the throne. They were mostly spoiled, irresponsible, negligent, and arrogant people who think that just because they were born into royalty they can get anything they want and do anything they want. He was thinking of announcing Naruto as the new crown prince, since the position was vacant. He always wanted Akihito to ascend the throne when he found him, but since he is gone, his son will take his place. Taking Naruto out of Konoha will also prove to be difficult. He needed to make Naruto his heir discreetly, meaning he has to take Naruto out Konoha without the Hokage knowing he is gone. The daimyo was so immersed in his thoughts that he didn't see Naruto waking him up. Naruto POV. I opened my eyes to see huge bars and weird-looking and chubby fox. I mean, he's kinda cute when he is sleeping. "Hey Foxy, are you awake?" I asked. The fox its eyes and looked at me. "I'm kinda scared." "Puny human," it said. "What did you say, Foxy?" I said. The fox just stood up and looked at me. I'm surprised at its size. You must be my jailer. Well then I will introduce myself. I am known as the destroyer of mountains, cause of tsunamis and powerfulest of the 9 bijus. I am the great, handsome, and powerful Kurama, the now known Kurama said. So full of yourself then. Well, I am Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage and future coolest shinobi, and I'm better than Sasuke. So Mr. Kurama, where are we? I said. The fox just blinked and looked at me with a look of confusion. Then it said something that took my surprised. You mean you don't know where you are? Gaki, we are in your mind, Mr. Kurama said. What? Man, that is so cool. But I thought my mind will look cooler than this place, I said. Mr. Kurama just looked at me and then he said, you really don't know what's going on, do you? Well, I try my best to understand the situation, but I can't, so, yeah, I don't understand. You really are stupid. Well, I am the 9-tailed fox, and you, my stupid Gaki, is my Jinchuriki. What? Don't worry, I will explain it. It starts with the attack I made on Konoha. Okay, so Kurama tells everything about the attack he made on Konoha that then led to the death of the 4th Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki. But Gaki, there is a secret that has been hidden from you since your birth. You are actually the son of the 4th Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki. You are the last of the Uzumaki royal family and heir to the throne of the land of Whirlpool. What? Are you serious? You mean to tell me that not only am I the son of the 4th, but I am also royalty? Yup, now I think you need to go. I feel someone is waiting for you to wake up. Oh, I am sure that it is Hokage Gigi. I mean, he is the only one who cares about me. No, it's not him, it's someone else. I don't feel any negative energy from him. I think he cares for you. Just go visit him so I can go back to sleep. I said my goodbyes to Foxy-kun and woke up. When I woke up, I saw an old dude wearing luxurious robes sitting on the side of the bed. Who are you, dude? Fire Daimyo POV. I see him waking up and I help him sit up. Are you okay? Yeah, I am okay, but seriously, dude, who are you? Well, Naruto, I am your grandfather. I am your father's father. Before you go all haywire, I'll explain. You see, your grandmother and I had a secret relationship. We came from different worlds, meaning I'm rich and she's not, but that didn't stop our love from blooming. It only made it strong, and the result of that love came your father, Akihito, Minato. But due to my position we had to separate. Your grandmother went with your father while I stayed to lead my people. When everything went back to normal, I searched for your grandmother and father, but I only found out that your grandmother was dead and your father was lost. I mourned for loss, but I still went on to search for your father, hoping that he was alive. But alas, he was also dead. Now I only have you, my dear grandson. Wow, that means I am 100% royal. OMG, I'm more important than Sasuke. Sasuke? Yeah, he's that duckbit Teme, who thinks he's so special just because he comes from the Uchiha clan. Quote, well, then Naruto, we have so much to talk about. Especially your new position as Crown Prince of the Land of Fire. After the Fire Daimyo revealed his side of the story, Naruto reveals to him that he is also the last member of the Uzumaki royal family. The Daimyo was surprised to hear this and continued to ask him. Flashback. Daimyo Gigi, I also have something to tell you. The Daimyo nodded and Naruto continued to tell him that not only is he royal from his father's side but also from his mother's side. His mother is Kushina Uzumaki, the last royal heir to the throne of Uzu no Kuni. The Daimyo was happy to hear this, and told Naruto to rest while he goes to deal with some business. Flashback ended. Present. The Daimyo walks outside Naruto's room and heads to his carriage. On the way to his estate, he is happy to find out that Naruto is also a royal, but from the famed and powerful Uzumaki royal family. This little secret could solidify his role as a crown prince of the Land of Fire. All Naruto needs is teaching, and in a few years he will be up to the task. The Daimyo was so deep in thought that he didn't notice that they have already arrived. Your Majesty, we have arrived. The Daimyo looks up and mutters a little thank you and heads inside. He heads towards his office and went inside and calls for his most trusted bodyguard. Long Fei, I have a task for you. I want you to prepare my return to the capital. We are heading back in 2 days. I want you to find perfect tutors to teach my grandson in history, art, kenjutsu, ninjutsu, taijutsu, bojutsu, and etiquette. Long Fei takes in his orders and leaves. The daimyo was thinking of how to take Naruto out of Konoha without being detected by the shinobi's sensors and its many security. The daimyo decided to get some rest if he wants to see his grandson in the early morning. In the hospital bed, Naruto is thinking of his life went from being hated by most of the Konoha population to being a prince of 2 dynasties. He smiles at the thought of not being alone anymore. He drifts off to sleep. The next morning, Naruto wakes up to doctor standing next to him and telling him that he has been released from the hospital. Naruto gets ready to leave when a guard comes inside his room and tells him that his grandfather is waiting for him at his estate. Naruto smiles at the thought of his grandfather. When he was ready, he went with the guard. He was being escorted back to the estate on a carriage. At first he refuses to be escorted on a carriage like those spoiled brats, but the guards manage to convince him that it's for his safety. So here we see Naruto being escorted on his grandfather's carriage. The people stop to bow and their lord, when in actuality it was Naruto, the so-called demon brat, that they were bowing to. The people were so oblivious that it was Naruto and not their lord. Inside the carriage, Naruto was laughing his ass out at how stupid the people of Konoha are to believe that he was his grandfather. He ceased laughing and continued to wait patiently until they arrived at his grandfather's estate. When they arrived, Naruto marveled at the beauty of his grandfather's estate. The estate was simply beautiful. The gates were made of oak and adorned with medals and the crest of the royal family. He went inside and saw that it was also beautiful. There were gardens, pavilions, and statues. He saw servants going about their daily chores. Wow, this place is awesome, I smiled and twirled. I heard laughing and turned around to see grandfather laughing while holding his hips. Grandfather, I yelled and ran at him. I jumped and hugged him. He hugged me back and led me to his office. Naruto, we are heading back to the capital and I have decided to take you back with me. For this to succeed, we are going to put under a disguise. Now listen carefully, we are going to disguise as my nephew, Prince Genji. He is the same age as you and has similar characteristics to you, but for all this to work you need to act perfectly. Of course Gramps, I can act perfectly, I've been doing it for a long time. The fire daimyo smiles and told Naruto to go stay in his new room. Naruto goes to the room and reads a few books on how to behave like a proper royal. He reads for the entire day, and when night came his food was delivered to him. He ate and continued to read his book. It was already late, so he went to bed and slept. Today was the day the escape plan will be put into action. Naruto is getting ready to do his part and act as his grandfather's nephew. So here we see Naruto in his disguise to escape from Konoha. Your Highness, it is time to leave. Your grandfather is already waiting for you. Naruto nods to the servant and went to his grandfather, whom was already waiting for him inside the carriage. Upon entering, his grandfather told him that he must not talk much and always look sad. Naruto takes in the information and acts accordingly. When they arrived at the border between Konoha and the capital, he saw 2 Hyuga guards surveying the carriage. They passed and was then checked by sensor shinobis to see if there is anyone who seems suspicious. The guards at first were suspicious of him, but then they didn't think much of me when they were told I was the nephew of the fire daimyo. The guards finally let us go and we headed towards the capital without a hitch. Grandfather, that went smoothly than I had initially thought, don't agree? I agree, my dear grandson, but enough about the escape. Listen, we are going to the capital, and when we arrive there I am going to announce you as my grandson and my heir. Of course grandfather, I will be ready to accept my roles as heir in order to help you in your burdens. Good thinking my boy, now we are almost there, be ready for the welcoming party. There will be my many concubines waiting there with my other children. The palace. Upon arrival many official, concubines, prince, and princess were waiting. Naruto and his grandfather went outside the carriage. Many people were surprised to see Naruto but didn't show it. The welcoming ceremony went smoothly, but there are many people that questioned the fire daimyo on who Naruto was. Your Majesty, who is the boy you came with? The Prime Minister asked. Prime Minister, ready for the crowning ceremony in 2 days, the Land of Fire has just found its heir. It will be done, Your Majesty. Naruto was introduced to many of the officials, concubines, prince, and princess. Many liked him while others outright hate him. Naruto was the escorted to his new residence, the Crown Prince's palace. It was a beautiful day, the flowers bloomed, the birds sang, and the sky was cloudless. This day is a very special occasion, for you see today is the coronation of Naruto as the new Crown Prince of the Land of Fire. Your Highness, you are almost ready. The servants were busy styling the robes for the coronation. The robes were simply magnificent, but they displayed an aura of authority and power. The servant styled his hair elegantly, and left bangs on each side of his head. Naruto was simply the epitome of royalty, with his face void of any expression or emotion. Your Highness, the coronation is about to begin, we should head over there right away. Let's show the people of the Land of Fire what their new crown prince is made of. Naruto heads to where the coronation is being held. When he arrives there, many people were already there waiting for him. He walks to the center of the path, takes a deep breath and walks forward. The first crowd he went through were the common folk, they were cheering for him, the second were merchants, they clapped, the third were the aristocrats, a few of them cheered, clapped while the others weren't. When he got to his destination, a lot of important officials, concubines, princes, princess were waiting for him. He walks up to the steps to where his grandfather is waiting for him on his throne. He arrives to the top of the steps and kneels, and his grandfather stood up to start the coronation. When out of nowhere someone shouted out, "Father, why is it that peasant that you just found is being coronated the crown prince of this land when we were waiting for so long to be crown prince?" "That's right, father, this is unfair. How could you let a peasant become the next king of this land? What right does that peasant have that we don't? We have the support of the ministries behind us. What does he have that we don't?" Naruto just kneeled there without looking back. His grandfather was angry because of this sudden outburst and ordered the guards to restrain the insolent princes and lock them in prison so he could deal with them later. "Grandfather, let me handle it. I would show the people of the Land of Fire who I truly am, and the power that I possess." Note: the Fire Daimyo's name is Tenno Shinji. The Fire Daimyo nods towards Naruto, and Naruto stood up and looked towards the crowd of people whom are now curious of what he's about to say. "People of the Land of Fire, I know that this is new to all of you. But to support my claim to the position of Crown Prince, I will tell you of my ancestry. My father was the long-lost son of Fire Daimyo Tenno Shinji, Akihito Shinji. My father is no longer of this world, but I will continue to lead on his legacy. My father was the fourth Hokage of Konoha. But this information is not the only thing that solidifies my role as Crown Prince. I am also the last surviving heir to the throne of the Land of Whirlpool." This statement caused an uproar in the aristocracy, ministries, and the royal family, princes, princess. "How do we know you're telling the truth? The last known heir was the late Princess Kushina Uzumaki." "I am telling the truth. My mother is Kushina Uzumaki. To prove my statement, here is a DNA test done to prove my claim to the thrones of both the Land of Fire and Whirlpool." As you all know, the Uzumaki royal family were known to be the richest royal families in the shinobi world. This was one of the reasons why Kumo, Kiri, and Iwa decided to destroy my homeland. For years, the Land of Whirlpool has been in lockdown. That is because it is sealed with a seal that can only be opened by blood relatives of the Uzumaki royal family. If I reopen the Land of Whirlpool, the treasures and wealth of the Uzumaki royal family will be transferred to me in my name. With this wealth, I will help with paying massive debts that have robbed the treasury. So does this prove my right to the position of Crown Prince? All of the people were silent, and then they erupted into cheering and clapping. The coronation then continued without any disruption. "Do you accept your role as Crown Prince, to protect and defend the Land of Fire and its citizens?" "I will. With the power vested in me by the previous rulers of the Land of Fire, I hereby crown you, Crown Prince Naruto of the Lands of Fire and Whirlpool. Long live the Crown Prince." The people cheered, "Long live the Crown Prince." In that moment the name Naruto was no more, now he is reborn as Crown Prince Akihito of the Lands of Fire and Whirlpool. What a beautiful day to be a ninja. We see young students practicing their shuriken and kunai throwing. Very good, Sasuke. Now, Naruto Uzumaki. Is Naruto Uzumaki here? "Iruka-sensei, Naruto hasn't attended school for the last 3 days, replied a bored voice. "Can you guys guess who this is? Okay, listen up. I am going to leave you guys here for 15 minutes and you guys better behave. I am going to visit the Hokage, replied Iruka, and he hurriedly left for the Hokage Tower. Hokage Tower. The Hokage was happily reading his precious Icha Icha books when all of a sudden the doors burst open. Holy freaking hog monkey, what the hell is it? Replied the startled Hokage. Sir, sorry for barging in, but I have something to report, replied Iruka in an apologetic voice. Sir, Naruto has disappeared. He hasn't attended class for the last 3 days. He usually is at his home or in the forest, but I already checked those places before coming here. If Naruto is missing, then that means someone has taken him or he left on his own. Iruka, gather the Anbu Black Ops, we are going to search for Naruto secretly. Iruka nodded and hurried to fulfill the Hokage orders. The third Hokage then left to Naruto's apartment. Upon entering, he found a note on the table. Dear Hokage Gigi, I thank you for your love, care, and support, but I cannot stay in Konoha any longer. You and Inu-san will be the only people I will miss. Don't worry Gigi, I will return, and when that day comes, Konoha will finally accept me. I love you Gigi. Yours truly, Naruto Uzumaki. Tears filled the Hokage's eyes, and he returned to the Hokage Tower with a sour mood. Sir, the council has requested your presence. The Hokage looked towards his assistant and nods. He headed towards the council chambers. Upon entering, he was greeted with the sight of arguing council members. When they saw the Hokage, they showed their respects and began to quiet down. Lord Hokage, we have heard that the Kyuubi brat is gone. Is this true? Replied a civilian council member. Yes, it is, replied the Hokage. When hearing the Hokage words, the civilian council members burst into cheers and laughter. The Kyuubi brat is gone. The Kyuubi brat is gone, cheered the civilian council members. The Hokage has had enough of this and shouted. Enough, do you know what you are doing? You are celebrating the disappearance of the son of your hero, the fourth Hokage. Not only this, but you dare to break the law I have put forward. This is it, I have gone to soft over the years, but now it is over. From this moment forward, the civilian council is disbanded. They will no longer hold any power in handling affairs of the government. The Shinobi Academy will be put under the jurisdiction of the Shinobi Council to handle and change the subjects and schedule put forward by the civilian council. The Hokage orders were met with many complaints, but they were all silent when the Hokage ordered his Anbu Black Ops to take 3 of the civilian council members to Ibiki and Anko. They were all silent since no one wants to become a victim of Ibiki and Anko's mentality. The civilian council members were then led outside. The Shinobi Council let out some sighs of frustration and happiness. Frustrated because they have so many paperwork now, and happy because now the nuisance that was the civilian council are gone. What are you going to do now, Lord Hokage? Replied the stoic head of the Hyuga clan. I will start with re-establishing the Ninja Academy to its old days and reteach the students the important stuff they need to know, replied the tired Hokage. This meeting is now adjourned, we will meet again in 2 days' prime. By then I expect some ideas. The Hokage then left to return to his home. He thinks to his surrogate grandson, Naruto, I hope you are safe and happy, thought the Hokage. He then drift off to sleep. In the courtyard of the royal palace, we see 2 people practicing the art of the sword. Very good, your highness. You are excelling very well in the art of the sword, replied a tall muscular man. I only have my sensei to thank for that, Akihito replied politely. They then did a few more practices when a servant ran up to Akihito and told him that he has 2 more minutes until his history lessons. After the 2 minutes, Naruto leaves for his last class, history. The history class takes some time to finish. So your highness, that is the reason why the land of Whirlpool was invaded and destroyed. Because of their alliance with Konoha, said the history tutor, Mr. Lee. Naruto thanked Mr. Lee for the lesson and heads towards his private washroom. Unknown POV. A dark figure orders his servant to find out if the rumors are true. Zetsu, I want you to find out if this prince is indeed the last of the Uzumaki royal family. Bring some of his DNA so we can do some testings on. Zetsu nods and goes to fulfill his master's orders. Back to Naruto. The washroom was simply the epitome of perfection. High ceiling, crystal walls, oak floors, and huge bathtub. It's anyone's dream. The room was misty and warm. Naruto was taking his bath with scented lavender. When all of a sudden masked individuals came into the washroom and attacked Naruto. Naruto avoided the assassins and heads for his sword. "Who sent you here?" replied the stoic Naruto. He puts on his bathrobes and opens his sword. "We sent here by the Shinigami to collect your soul," answered one of the assassins. All of his comrades laughed. Naruto used this as opportunity and attacked them head-on. He yells for the guards and continues to fight the assassins off. Meanwhile, Zetsu arrives at the room and uses the distraction to get some DNA samples from Naruto. Swords marks marred the luxurious washrooms' walls, floors, and ceilings. Naruto paralyzes the last of the assassins and looked towards the weird anomaly whom was already gone by going down the floorboards. When the guards arrived, they took the paralyzed assassin in for questioning. The fire daimyo rushes over to Naruto. "My dear grandson, are you okay?" asked the concerned daimyo. Naruto nods and tells his grandfather to not worry. Naruto later goes to sleep after doing a security check for strange activity. Next day, the throne room was a mess. Ministers were arguing over who was responsible for the assassination attempt on the crown prince. A guard hurries in and tells the daimyo that the assassin is ready to talk. The assassin was brought inside and immediately the arguing stopped. They looked at the assassin and expected the answer. "Your Majesty, we were sent here to assassinate the crown prince," answered the scared assassin. The fire daimyo was anxious to find out who ordered him and says, "On whose orders?" the fire daimyo said. "On the orders of Concubine Wei, Your Majesty," answered the assassin. The fire daimyo was outraged and orders the guards to lock Concubine Wei. The ministers argued amongst themselves while trying to appease the fire daimyo's wrath. Naruto was surprised to hear that it was Concubine Wei. She has always been nice to him, but maybe that was just a facade. Unknown POV. The dark figure was waiting for his servant's return. When he sees the outline of his servant comes out of the earth. "Madara-sama, we have gotten the DNA sample just as you wanted," replied Zetsu. The now identified Madara nodded and ordered Zetsu to do the DNA test. Hours later, Zetsu came with the results. "Madara-sama, the results are here. Crown Prince Akihito is the last of the Uzumaki royal family," said Zetsu. Upon hearing this, Madara nodded and told Zetsu to leave. After Zetsu left, he looked towards his family photo. Him, his beloved, and daughter were so happy. But their happiness was taken away by that unexpected invasion. In the royal throne room, ministers are gathered for the usual morning meetings. On the throne sat a man in his late 50s with luxurious clothes. This man is the fire daimyo, Tenno Shinji. On his left, his trusted man, eunuch Chong, standing there with a stoic face. On the throne to his right sat a blonde young boy with a bored expression, the young crown prince Akihito. On his left stood his bodyguard, best friend, Kongsu. The royal court is divided into two factions. These factions are the Orchid, and the Ravenclaws. These two factions are led by the two ministers. Right Minister Chu leads the Orchid, while Left Prime Minister Shu leads the Ravenclaws. And today is another normal day where they argue over something as simple as who gets to go and distribute sacks of rice to the peasants, personally. "Your Majesty, the Orchids, won't stoop to something so low as to give sacks of rice to those filthy peasants," replied the disgusted right Prime Minister. The rest of the Orchid members agreed and shouted their agreement with their leader. "Your Majesty, it will be an honor for the Ravenclaws to take on this simple task of just giving sacks of rice to the people of our nation. Unlike the pompous Orchids over there, we love our people," replied the smirking left Prime Minister. Before the right Prime Minister Chu could retort, the throne room was filled with laughing from the young crown prince. "OMG, old man PMC, you just got burned by PMS. Man, this is funny," answered the laughing crown prince. Everyone in the throne room was bewildered at the crown prince's behavior, except for the Orchid members. "It is resolved then, the Ravenclaws will be the ones responsible for distributing sacks of rice to the people. I hope you guys work diligently in your responsibilities." "Court dismissed," said the fire daimyo. The daimyo stood and left, followed by the young crown prince who was leaving to his private training ground. He arrives there and puts on his training clothes and begins his match with his best friend. Concubine Li Fan POV. A beautiful woman sits on top her chair looking at her hired missing nin. She is none other than the fire daimyo's former favorite concubine, Lady Li Fan. It's simple really, you just get in his private training grounds and murder him, said Lady Li Fan. The missing nin heeded her orders and went to fulfill their orders. You think you can just come here and take my son's rightful place as crown prince? Well then you're mistaken because it's going to be his when you're dead, thought Lady Li Fan. Akihito POV. I was fighting with my best friend when I felt an unfamiliar chakra signature heading towards us in an alarming rate. I stopped and threw a kunai at this mysterious intruder. Who are you? I asked. The mysterious man wasn't talking, he just stared at me. I kinda admit, it was very creepy. Judging from his clothes, I think he is a shinobi. I looked at his Hite 8 and saw the symbol of Kirigakure crossed out. He's a missing nin. Kongsu, he's a missing nin, be careful, he should not be underestimated. I told me best friend. We both entered in fighting stances, he ran towards us and hit us with his katana. We exchanged blows until I was starting to get tired. Getting tired, your highness, the mysterious man taunted. I looked up at him and ran at him and threw my bestest shot. I saw Kongsu knocked out on the ground. It's just me and him right now. I tried calling for the guards through the signals I have sent out before I fought this guy, but they seem to have not catch it. Shadow clone jutsu. 100 clones of myself appeared and I told them to attack the man. He destroyed them like they were nothing. He then came running towards me, he punched me and I fell on the ground. Well, no guards right, your highness, I killed them before I came here. You deserve to know who I am. I am Kuragi, a missing nin from Kirigakure and your executioner. He swung his katana, stabbed me and I closed my eyes. Nothing hit me. When I look up, I saw Kongsu using himself as a shield to protect me from the katana. Kongsu looked towards me and smiled. He then used his katana and stabbed Kuragi, catching him off guard. I then came forward and killed Kuragi by cutting of his head. His body fell down lifelessly. I looked towards the body of my best friend and ran towards it. I sat beside his body. Kongsu, don't worry, I won't let you die. Just please hold on, I told him. But he was too stubborn to listen. He insisted I listen to what he has to say. Akihito, for as long as I know you, you are the kind young master that I have served. You loved your people and nation, and you treat your servants with respect and kindness. I am glad. I serve. You Akihito. May your reign as daimyo, be peaceful and, Harmon, I see. His breathing slowed down and eventually it stopped. Kongsu died in front of me. I cried over the loss of my best friend. Tears stained my face. I screamed over in agony, sadness, despair, and anger. Nature must have felt my sadness because it started to rain. My best friend is dead because of a stupid missing nin. I promise you, Kongsu, I will give you justice. I felt my eyes stinging of pain. I looked towards my reflection in the puddle and saw something that made me gasp. I have the Sharingan, and it already has 3 tomos. I was so busy looking at my eyes that I didn't hear my grandfather and his guards rushing inside my private training grounds. Akihito, are you okay? Are you hurt? My worried grandfather asked. Don't worry, grandfather, I replied. I then looked at my grandfather and when he saw my eyes he fainted. Well, I guess I have a lot of explaining to do. In the office there are 3 individuals sitting down. The Daimyo, the right prime minister, and the left prime minister are these 3 individuals. They are debating whether for the crown prince to go to Konoha to complete his shinobi training. The fire daimyo's office image above. Your Majesty, I don't think it is good idea for the crown prince to go to Konoha after what they have done. The right prime minister Chu said. The fire daimyo's takes Prime Minister Chu's suggestion into consideration. Then he asks left Prime Minister Shu for his suggestion. Your Majesty, I think it is good idea for the crown prince to go to Konoha. He will be able to learn more over there than here in the capital. The crown prince will also be able to practice his Sharingan there if he is given the correct instructions. He will also be able to get to know his chosen bride, the Lady Hinata of the Hyuga clan. The left Prime Minister Shu says. The fire daimyo takes both of their suggestions into consideration and decides to go with Prime Minister Shu's idea. They then debate on who from the Uchiha clan they will choose to help the crown prince with his Sharingan. They then decided on choosing the Uchiha clan's prodigy, Itachi Uchiha, to be the private tutor of the crown prince. The fire daimyo then agreed on their ideas and told the prime ministers that they are now excused. The fire daimyo then tells eunuch Chong to get the crown prince. Eunuch Chong leaves to get the crown prince. The fire daimyo is now left alone with his thoughts. Akihito POV. Konoha was very peaceful and serene. Kids were playing and the adults were doing their normal routine. The birds were chirping and the weather was warm. In the Hokage Tower, the Hokage was enjoying his Icha Icha book when a shinobi informed him of the arrival of a messenger from the capital, Kyoto. So guys, in the anime and manga the fire capital wasn't mentioned, so I am going to name it after the old capital of Japan, Kyoto. The Hokage grumbled about being interrupted when he was reading his precious. The Hokage ordered the shinobi to let the messenger inside. "So what brings you here to the village?" asked the Hokage. "Lord Hokage, I have been ordered to inform you of the arrival of the crown prince to Konoha in a week's time. The fire daimyo has ordered you to send your bestest shinobi to help escort the crown prince here," said the messenger. "Did the fire daimyo say why he is coming to Konoha?" the Hokage asked again. "The crown prince is coming here to complete his shinobi training and to meet his bride, Lady Hinata," said the messenger. The Hokage nodded, understanding the reason why the crown prince was coming. He told the messenger that he can leave. He then called for his Anbu agent, Possum, to gather the council. Council room. The council room was silent as the shinobi council and the elders waited patiently for the Hokage's arrival. A few minutes later, the Hokage had finally arrived with a grim expression. The council has started to worry to what has caused the Hokage such distress. "Lord Hokage, is something wrong? Why have you summoned us?" asked a clan head. The Hokage took a huff of his smoking pipe and looked at everyone in the council room one by one. The council members felt intimidated, whether by the way the Hokage is looking at them or the way the mood is starting to change. "I have summoned you all here for something important," the Hokage said mysteriously. The council members looked at each other with one of their eyebrows raised until a brave member asked the Hokage. "W. Hat is it, L. Ord ho. O. Cage," the council member stuttered. "Today, I just got word that the fire daimyo's aunt, Lady Takiharu, is coming here with her cat. But the only problem is, she isn't coming with only Tora. I have been informed that she has adopted 5 more cats just like Tora," the Hokage said grimly. The council members all had a horrified expressions. Suddenly all hell broke loose as every member started to say that they should stop the Lady Takiharu from coming here or just get rid of the demon cats and blame it on an accident. Everyone was arguing when they stopped as they heard the Hokage laughed. "Lord Hokage, what is wrong? Is there something funny?" asked the Aburame clan head, Shibi. The Hokage calmed down and wiped a tear from his eye. "Don't tell me you all fell for that lame joke," the Hokage said after he finished laughing. The council nodded their heads in unison, then when they knew what was going on, they all looked at the Hokage with an annoyed look. The Hokage chuckled a bit before he went into full business mode. "A messenger from the fire capital has arrived," the Hokage said. Everyone was surprised since the fire daimyo doesn't usually plan official visits or checkup during this time of the year. Besides, it had been a long time since the fire daimyo came to Konoha. So they waited for the Hokage to answer their thoughts. "The crown prince is coming here to complete his shinobi training." To this the council was also surprised since it's gonna be the first time in Konoha history for a royal to come to Konoha to train, especially in the shinobi way. I mean, royals do know how to fight, but they are trained in the samurai way, not the shinobi way. So it's surprising to hear a royal learning about ninjutsu and taijutsu. I want all of you to prepare and make sure the crown prince's arrival is spectacular. I want everything to be clean and beautiful from the bottom up. Also, Hiyashi the crown prince is also here to visit his bride. Make sure she is ready." To say everyone was upset about the many work, they wouldn't complain because they at least get to see the mysterious crown prince. There was many rumors surrounding the crown prince. Some people say that he is gay because when his bodyguard died he never spared a glance at a girl or even touch a girl. Some people also say that he is a demon in human form who tricked the fire daimyo into believing that he is his long-lost grandson. But that will be proven when he arrives. We also have another issue. Who will be sent to help escort the crown prince? The concerned Hokage said. Everyone started to think on who to send when Shikaku Nara said, "Why not send Kakashi Hitaki and 5 of our best Anbu Black Op agents?" Everyone agreed when Fugaku Uchiha also added, I request you also send my eldest son, Itachi Uchiha, to help with the escort." Everyone also agreed on what Fugaku said. So it was settled, the escort unit has been found, the redecoration of Konoha is in session, but now to inform the academy on the new student. Konoha Academy. Out on the academy courtyard, children are seen practicing shuriken, kunai throwing, practicing their jutsus, and learning about the other shinobi nations. When the civilian council was disbanded, the academy was reformed. The usual training sessions of only training for 2 hours was changed to hard and vigorous training for 5 hours. The once lazy academy students were changed into smart but not overly talented young shinobi, but they were still learning. A messenger shinobi informs all the teachers about the crown prince arrival and then left. The teachers immediately gathered all the students and made an announcement. "Students of Konoha Academy, listen up. In a week, we are going to have a special student who is coming from the capital city of the Land of Fire, Kyoto. We are going to welcome him in open arms and not make fun him or bully him. Understand, you little brats? Now that is all, go back to your training." The students resumed their training while they whispered to each other. They were curious on who from the capital is coming when it's almost graduation day. "So, who do you think is coming from the capital, Shikamaru?" asked Choji while munching on his chips. "I don't know, but it's troublesome," said the bored Nara while looking at the clouds. Everyone was training when the bell rang. They quickly left. The students all left with one thought on their minds: who is the mysterious visitor? Hokage Tower. The Hokage was waiting for the arrival of his chosen escorts. Well, one of the escorts, that is. Kakashi Hitaki, the copycat ninja, is always late. This one is also an exception. After 2 hours of waiting, Kakashi finally arrived, and when asked why he was late, he told us that he was helping out an old lady with groceries, and after that a black cat crossed his path, so he had to take the long way around. The Hokage quickly dismissed his excuse and went straight to business. "Kakashi, I have made you the leader of the escort team. You and your team are to go to Kyoto and help escort the crown prince to Konoha." "Got it." Kakashi understood the situation at hand and nodded. The Hokage quickly dismissed and ordered them to leave first thing in the morning. I was busy practicing my ninjutsu forms when eunuch Chong arrived and told me my grandfather is waiting for me at his office. I then put on my clothes and head for my grandfather's office. When I arrived there, I smelled the faint smell of tea. When I entered his office, I saw him sitting at his desk and sipping his tea. "Hello grandfather, you asked for me?" I asked him. He looks up to me and tells me to sit down. When I sat down, he tells me that I am returning to Konoha. I was happy to hear this, since not only will I see those people that made my life hell, I will also see the love of my life, Hinata. Yup guys, I fell in love her when I met that other night. I was never in love with Sakura, it was all just part of my act. "So grandfather, when will I leave?" I asked. "You will leave next week. I just send word to the Hidden Leaf of your arrival. They will be sending their best shinobi to help escort you. Now listen, you will arrive just in time for their graduation test. So I wish you best of luck at the graduation," grandfather said. I then thank him for his kind words, and then he tells me who is going to help me train with my Sharingan. I was so happy hearing that it was Itachi. He was also one of the people that helped me in my childhood. I can't wait to see his face when he see that it is me. Well, I will wait. 2 days have passed and the Konoha escort have finally arrived. They immediately went to meet the fire daimyo. On their way, they saw a blonde young boy practicing kenjutsu with an older man they believed to be his teacher. They paid no mind to the young boy, but instead they focused more on the task at hand. They arrived at the throne room and could grovel at its magnificence. They immediately paid their respects to the fire daimyo. "Greetings, your majesty. I am Kakashi Hitaki of Konoha and these are my comrades. We have been ordered by the Hokage to help with escorting the young crown prince to Konoha." The fire daimyo was relieved to hear that his grandson was being escorted by the famed copy nin. With this in mind, he was somewhat sure his grandson would be safe and protected. "So you must be the famed copy nin. I've heard so much about you," said the young blonde boy. Kakashi and his comrades saw who it was and were surprised. It was the young boy from earlier. Said boy strolled past them and went to the fire daimyo. He paid his respects and sat on the throne meant for the crown prince. They connected the dots and they also paid their respects to the crown prince. "Grandfather, are they the escort from Konoha?" "Indeed, my grandson. Kakashi-san, I would like you to meet my grandson, Akihito Shinji. the crown prince of the land of fire and whirlpool. Kakashi just looked at the young boy whom was sitting next to the fire daimyo. There was something familiar about him, but he couldn't find it. He continued analyzing the crown prince. He was a young boy with an authoritative aura. But he couldn't see his face since it was covered by a mask. Naruto wears a mask just like Kakashi's. Your Royal Highness, I am Kakashi Hitaki and these are my comrades. We are here to help escort you back to Konoha. Kakashi-san, you and your comrades must be tired from your journey. Eunuch Chong escort them to the guest room. Oh, and Kakashi-san, we leave at 9 o'clock a.m. in the morning. I heard about your little habit, so don't be late. Or I will burn every single Icha book out there and make you watch it. Kakashi was scared from the crown prince's threat and planned to sleep early. He and the rest of the Anbu followed Eunuch Chong to their temporary rooms. Akihito was left alone with the fire daimyo. Akihito, be safe. I don't want to lose you like how I lost your father. Don't worry grandfather, I will, but don't worry, we will meet again at the Chunin exams. That is true, but still, the life of a shinobi is difficult. So I hope you stay safe and don't get hurt. Akihito reassured his grandfather and told his grandfather that he should return to his lessons. Akihito POV. The land of whirlpool had an alliance with the land of fire since ancient times. Your grandfather's great-great-grandfather, Fire Daimyo, Minamoto Shinji, was the one to sign the alliance with the Whirlpool Daimyo, Daisuke Uzumaki. Since then they have always been in peaceful terms. Mr. Lee, I have a question, said Man nodded. What happened after Whirlpool was destroyed? After Whirlpool was destroyed, the land of fire seized Whirlpool territory and the fire daimyo became the steward to the Uzumaki royal family's accounts and territories since Princess Kushina was still young. When she was old enough she regained control to her family's accounts, but since her death the duty once again fell to the fire daimyo. I was surprised to learn yet another truth about my family. Man, my family sure has many secret. I wonder what other secret my family is hiding. But time will tell. I dismissed Mr. Lee and began to read some books on the history of Konoha. I'm rereading the history of the 4 Hokages. I'm currently reading about the Nidaime Hokage. That man was a genius, but I always wondered, why did he hate the Uchiha so much? I mean, I can understand Madara, but why the entirety of the Uchiha clan? That always kept me wondering. My thoughts were interrupted when I heard the doors opening. Akito ni-sama, shouted a smiling little girl. Mika, what did I tell you about coming inside my chamber without notifying me? She pouted and came up to me. Nei-sama, I wanted to surprise you since you're leaving. I smiled at how adorable she is. Well, what did you want to give me? She smiled and went to get the thing her maid was holding. She put the bowl of colorful ooze on my desk and came to sit on my lap. I made this stew myself, big brother, and I wanted you to taste it. I looked at the bowl of ooze and one could swear I saw some glitter and beads in there. I asked her what's it called and she said that it's her Super Rainbow Glitter Farewell Soup. I immediately looked at her servant and she shook her head telling me not to eat. But I didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I tasted it. I regretted it, it was disgusting and I could feel my stomach disagreeing with it. So I continued to eat the soup until it was finished. She was so happy I finished the soup she made and told me that she's going to go do some more for the Konoha escort team. Before I could tell her no, she was already gone. I was about to go after her when my stomach made some funny sounds. Well, I'll go to her later, but now I gotta go the toilet, really bad. It was finally morning, the sun was rising while the moon was setting. The palace was bustling with activity, as servants and soldiers alike were busy preparing for the departure of the crown prince. Servants were carrying luggage after luggage of everything the prince needed, from clothes, to weapons, favorites, books, favorite games, favorite paintings, and to personal items. In the guest rooms, Kakashi and his comrades were getting ready for their departure when a eunuch came to tell him that he was summoned to the throne room. Kakashi was a little suspicious of being summoned early in the morning. But he went anyways. I mean, he can't just avoid the fire freaking daimyo. Throne room. Kakashi arrived and went with the usual routine of paying his respects. He asked the fire daimyo on why he was summoned. Kakashi-san, I know that you were told that my grandson is being sent to Konoha to complete his shinobi training. However, that is not the entire story. I am going to tell you a secret that should never reach anyone else's ears, even your Hokage. Kakashi nodded at the statement. Silence. It took a few minutes until the fire daimyo broke the silence. He is also being to Konoha to learn how to wield his Sharingan. This is a secret of the royal family and you must swear to never reveal anything until the Chunin exams. You must protect him from those who wish to harm him. Do you accept your new responsibility? Kakashi on the other hand was stunned to hear that the young prince wielded a power that only those of the Uchiha clan possess. He was then broke out of his thoughts when the fire daimyo also told him that he will be helping the crown prince with his Sharingan alongside Itachi Uchiha. Itachi was already informed of his role. The daimyo already sent a letter to the Uchiha clan head informing him of Itachi being the private tutor of the young prince. Kakashi was about to leave when the fire daimyo also told him a little detail. I must also tell you that when his Sharingan is activated his features will start to change. Do not be surprised when you see it. But you would know it when you see it yourself. Kakashi left and joined up with his comrades. Hey Kakashi, were you told of your task? Asked Itachi in a monotone voice. Yeah, the prince is a surprising person. What are you holding? Oh, it's a snack. Princess Mika gave all of the Anbu and samurai snacks to eat on the way. She made it herself and I didn't want to look bad so I accepted. I was about to say something when the crown prince came in with Princess Mika. She saw me and quickly ran and gave me a snack. This is how he looks like. Imagine that he just has mask like Kakashi's. Kakashi-san, you're surprisingly early. You took my threat into consideration. Good. We are now leaving. Let's go. Goodbye Mika, I will miss you. Princess Mika was crying so hard while waving farewell to her brother, uncle. The royal carriage finally left the capital, followed by a wave of attendants, servants, and guards. 4 hours later, the ride to Konoha was quiet but the impatient prince just had to ruin it with his nagging. Are we there yet? The attendants told the prince for the 100th time that they were almost there. He had to be patient. Kakashi was reading his Icha Icha book when he felt multiple chakra signatures up ahead. He quickly signaled the Anbu and the samurai guards. They sprang to action and were met with a group of bandits with a few missing nins. The peaceful forest was bloodied from trunk to treetop. The attendants were in a disarray. Others were fleeing with their lives while the others risked their lives to protect the crown prince. Swords and kunai clanging together filled the once peaceful forest. The bandits fought well but they were still no match for the Anbu and samurais combined. In the midst of battle, Akihito came out to help the skirmish. He activated his Sharingan and looked at the bandits. He attacked them. Kakashi felt a new chakra entering the battle. He looked around and saw a dark-haired individual who looked eerily like an Uchiha fighting the bandits. He saw his Sharingan activated and were surprised to see that they already had 3 tomos. He must have gone through a lot of pain to achieve those eyes, he thought. He looked away from the individual and focused back on the battle. Earth style. Mud wall. It took an hour to eliminate the enemy, some were spared for interrogation. They continued on their way. Akihito returned to the carriage, his Sharingan form disappeared and he returned to his normal appearance with the mask still on. Let's just call this Sharingan mode. He appears like this when his Sharingan are activated. They continued on their way to Konoha. The fleeing attendants were returned and told that they will be dealt with when they arrived at Konoha. At this moment, Kakashi and the other ANBUs were thinking the same thing. What did the prince go through to get those eyes? They just how he ruthlessly killed those bandits without a second thought. It means he must gone through a lot of pain. After hours of traveling they finally arrived in Konohagakure no Sato, the strongest of the 5 great villages. The royal entourage arrived at the front gates, only to be greeted with the sight of 2 sleeping Chunins. These were the eternal Chunins of Konoha, Izumo and Kotetsu. Kakashi sweat dropped at the 2's behavior and went to wake them up. The 2 were startled and immediately looked around and saw the royal entourage. They quickly informed the Hokage and welcomed the royal entourage inside. Upon entering, the royal entourage was treated with the sight of Konoha, its tall buildings indicating its advance in technology, and let's not forget its lush forests made personally by the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, also tells how abundant the vegetation in Konoha is. Hoping to catch a glimpse of the air of the lands of fire and whirlpool, shinobi and civilian alike gathered on the streets. The Uchiha police force quickly arrived to subdue the excited people. Akihito surely didn't expect this. He took a peek outside his carriage and saw people happily waving at him. He looked around and saw that Konoha was decorated with flags of the leaf, fire, and the whirlpool. Each one were very detailed. The flag with the leaf symbol was green with black linings, the flag with the fire symbol was maroon with gold linings, and finally the flag with the whirlpool symbol was blue with white linings. They surely decorate well. The carriage came to a sudden stop. An attendant came to tell him that they have arrived at the Hokage Tower. He looked outside and saw the Hokage, his advisors, and the rest of the shinobi council. Hokage Gigi still hasn't changed a bit. I can see he still smokes that pipe of his. He came out of the carriage and this made the people cheer much more louder. He waved at the people and made his way towards the Hokage. When he finally made it, the Hokage and everyone else followed royal protocol. They bowed at a 90-degree angle and said in unison, "Welcome to the leaf, your royal highness." He nodded and told them to stand up. "Hokage Gigi, you smoke too much. You need to cut it down or you'll end up in the hospital." The Hokage froze when he heard those words. Then a memory played on his mind. Flashback. He was in his office smoking his pipe and doing some kami-forsaken paperwork when the door to his office were thrown open and in came a blonde young boy laughing while he was being chased by the secretary. He quickly dismissed the secretary and asked the blonde boy what he was doing here. "Well, Hokage Gigi, I can explain. I was bored," said the blonde. He raised an eyebrow at this and told the boy to come sit on his lap. The blonde did as he was told. Then asked again, "Why are you here, Naruto?" He said. "Looks like you caught me. I came here because the villagers came after me again and the Anbu you assigned just turned a blind eye. Why do they do this to me, Gigi? What have I done wrong? All I ever wanted was a family, but no one could ever give that to me because they saw as a reminder of what happened that fateful night," said the now crying Naruto. The Hokage was heartbroken to see such a sight. So he told Naruto not to worry, that in time the villagers' hatred will suffice and he will be equally treated with the rest of the people. He also encouraged him to always put on a smile even when times are tough, because a smile can brighten anyone's day. Naruto took what his Hokage Gigi said to heart. He stood up and promised that he will protect and defend his most precious people even if they don't acknowledge him. He turned to leave but then looked back. "By the way, Hokage Gigi, you smoke too much. You need to cut it down or you'll end up in the hospital." He then turned to the door and left. The Hokage was so proud when he heard what Naruto said, a smile appeared on his face. And he continued to finish his paperwork. Flashback end. The Hokage's stillness was noticed by the advisors. So Homura asked if everything was okay. He was quite shaken by what the prince said. So he just ignored that unsettling feeling in his stomach and escorted the crown prince inside the council room. When they entered the council room, every council member went to their designated clan seats. The prince sat at the head of the table. The Hokage then introduced every single council member and the prince acknowledged every single one of them. Then the council meeting proceeded. The Hokage told the prince that after the council meeting they will be headed to the Hyuga compound for the welcoming celebration. When the prince heard this, he was quite surprised. He suddenly asked the Hokage why it was being held at the Hyuga compound. The Hokage then told him that it was a way for him to get to know his bride-to-be. The poor prince knew exactly what was going to happen at that welcoming celebration. That ceremony is going to be more of a funeral than a welcoming celebration, he thought. He made a mental note to invite some performers. The council meeting continued for another 30 minutes. When it was finished, the prince was escorted to the royal estate belonging to the Uzumaki clan. He went inside to prepare for the celebration that begins at 6 p.m. He then thinks of seeing Hinata. He smiles at the memory of her always fainting and blushing when she sees him. He went inside his room and took a little rest. Hokage POV. I was in my office drinking my tea while replaying in my mind what the prince said. "Hokage Gigi, you smoke too much. You need to cut it down or you'll end up in the hospital." The prince said exactly what Naruto said that day. Could it be possible that the prince is Naruto? Now that I think of it, Naruto disappeared around the time the crown prince was found. Could it be a coincidence? It's still too early to tell. I need to observe the prince carefully. I need to investigate this matter thoroughly. "Lord Hokage, it's time for the celebration," said my secretary. I nodded and went to the Hyuga clan compound. Hyuga clan compound. Many clan heads and shinobi were invited to the celebration held at the Hyuga compound. Many marveled at how the Hyuga clan compound held the aura of authority and sophistication that they always carried. Many thought the clan compound would be boring seeing as how the Hyuga always wear plain clothing. But they were wrong, the compound was magnificent. Many of the guests were there for one reason, and that was to see the young prince. Many were waiting for the arrival of the Hyuga's special guest, but one certain girl wasn't. In her room she was crying her eyes out. How could To-sama do this to me? He knows I love Naruto. She stayed like this until her father came to her room. Hinata, stop crying. You are no longer a child, he said harshly. But father, I don't want to marry the crown prince. Hinata, this is for your own good, now stop crying and get ready. I expect you to be there and don't you dare humiliate our clan out there. He then left the room leaving the now identified Hinata. Hinata wiped away her tears and started to get ready for the celebration. The people were having conversations with each other when an attendant announced the arrival of the prince. Announcing the arrival of His Royal Highness, Crown Prince Akihito, heir to the thrones of the lands of Fire and Whirlpool. After the announcement the prince came in, everyone instantly bowed down. You all may rise, said the prince. Everyone looked up to see the prince and were all entranced. The prince was wearing clothes and a cape made entirely out of white, image above. He was simply perfect, but they wished they could see his face. The celebration continued. People tried to mingle with the young prince, but he didn't even bother to answer to their stories or questions. He just continued talking to the Hokage and the Hyuga clan head. So Hiyashi-san, is it true that your Byakugan can see through anything? The prince said. It is true, your highness, said Hiyashi. Your highness, I heard that you were the son of the Fire Daimyo's long-lost son. If I may be so bold, where did he find you? Asked the Hokage. The prince dropped the drink he was holding and almost everyone looked at them. The Hokage knew this was a sensitive matter for the crown prince, so he apologized for asking such a rude question. He then asked Hiyashi if they had any entertainment for the night. Hiyashi shook his head. Hiyashi-san, please don't be upset, but I invited some musicians from the capital, said Akihito. Hiyashi was surprised that the prince invited musicians. But then again, maybe he heard about the Hyuga being strict individuals. He then said that it was no problem. The prince then told one of the attendants to get the performers. While the attendant was going to get the musicians, Hinata finally walked inside the room. Everyone inside was stunned to see her. She was simply beautiful. She was like a goddess who descended from the heavens. She was wearing a white and blue kimono with snow patterns. She walked towards her father and greeted him, then turned to greet the prince and the Hokage. I apologize for being late, father, she said. Our dear prince almost fainted from hearing her soft melodic voice. Akihito POV. I finally saw her, the love of my life. She was elegant. No scratch that, she is angelically beautiful. I was so busy admiring her that I didn't notice the attendant tell me that the musicians have arrived and that the show was about to begin. Your Highness, the musicians have arrived and they are ready to perform. I snapped out of my thoughts and nodded to the attendant. I asked Hinata if she could accompany me to my seat. Hinata was surprised, but she still took my hand. We made our way towards our table. I saw everyone making their way towards their tables. When everyone was sitting at their tables, I ordered the attendants to begin the performance. The video down below is the performance made by performers. All rights reserved to them for the spectacular performance. While the performance went on, I took a quick look at Hinata. She was smiling and OMG, she was beautiful. I didn't even pay attention to the performance. My entire attention was put solely on Hinata's beautiful face. While I was looking at Hinata, I didn't know that someone was looking at me. Hiyashi POV. While the performance went on, I had the strangest feeling that I need to look at my daughter and that prince. When I looked, I instantly regretted it. I saw the prince looking weirdly at Hinata. So many thoughts went on in my head. One of them is he thinking perverted thoughts about my innocent daughter? I glared so hard I didn't realize that I have activated my Byakugan. Many people noticed this and tried to calm me down, but I wasn't having that. The prince must have felt something wrong because he looked straight at me. He then looked a little afraid. That's right, little prince, fear your soon-to-be father-in-law, because I will make you suffer if you touch my daughter in any inappropriate way, without her consent. The prince looked away from gaze and began to watch the musical performance. When I was sure that he wouldn't look back at Hinata, I looked back to enjoy the musical performance. Nobody's POV. When the musical performance finished, everybody clapped at the wonderful performance. Everyone then began talking to each other again. This went on for another 45 minutes. Then Hiyashi announced that the celebrations were over. Everyone was crestfallen because they still wanted to celebrate, but they know they had to get out, knowing it's the Hyugas. Everyone started to make their way out, leaving Akihito and Hinata alone. Lady Hinata, I had a wonderful night over here at your home. I like to extend an invitation to you. Will you like to go on date with me tomorrow? When Hinata heard the prince said this, she blushed and agreed. Meanwhile, Hiyashi and the Hokage was watching this from the slightly open door to the hallways. Hiyashi was fuming. Was this prince trying to get his pure innocent daughter into bed? While Hiyashi was fuming, the Hokage was enjoying watching Hiyashi's expression. I mean, the Hokage and everyone in Konoha knew that Hiyashi mistreated his eldest daughter. But to see this man acting all overprotective all of a sudden was funny to watch. Akihito and Hinata made their farewells and went on their way. While heading out, Akihito had this uneasy feeling. He felt like something bad was going to happen, so he looked around and saw someone standing behind the half-open door heading to the hallways. When he took a closer look, he saw that it was Hiyashi Hyuga standing there. When Hiyashi saw the prince looking at him, he flashed the prince a smile. Akihito felt something wrong with Hiyashi's smile. It was a smile, but he felt a sinister meaning behind it. He felt a shiver go through his spine. He quickly turned around and headed towards his carriage and went home. When the prince left, Hiyashi bid farewell to the Hokage and went to have serious talk with Hinata about the bees and the honey. Hiyashi's smile. After the interesting situation at the Hyuga clan compound, the day for the graduation exams finally arrived. All the students were anxiously waiting for the arrival of the crown prince. Hey, I heard the crown prince is becoming a shinobi. Really, a royal is trying to become a shinobi. I don't he will succeed. The life of a shinobi is difficult, he surely can't handle that. Whatever, I heard he's handsome, a girl dreamily said. After she said this, the royal carriage strolled through the academy gates. Everyone was waiting for the crown prince to come out. Minutes passed and he finally came outside. When he did, all the students and senseis bowed down. When the prince told them to rise, the students finally looked up. They marveled at how attractive he looked. The prince had a muscular frame and his blonde hair was neatly done, and his most attractive features were his eyes. His eyes were a striking cerulean blue. His clothes showed an authoritative aura fit for a prince. But they wished they could see his face from behind the mask. His clothes. Akihito POV. I can surely tell that something in the academy has changed. I heard that Hokage Jiji had disbanded the civilian council. Good riddance to those bakas. I made my way towards the academy entrance when a Chunin sensei came up to me and said that he will guide me to my graduating class. I followed him, and on the way he told me how the academy was reorganized since the disbandment of the civilian council. We arrived in front of a class and told me to go inside. When I was inside, the students and sensei all bowed down, and after I told them to rise, I finally saw who the sensei was. It was Iruka. I remembered Iruka sensei. He was one of those senseis that hated me but then saw me as an orphan who did nothing wrong, so he began to teach me equally with the other students. Without the hate and malice, of course. Welcome to the graduating class, Your Royal Highness. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Chunin Iruka Amino. Would you like to introduce yourself to the class? Quote. I nodded and looked towards the class. Greetings, as you all know, I am Crown Prince Akihito Uzumaki Shinji, heir to the thrones of the lands of Fire and Whirlpool. I hope we all get along, and please call me Akihito. Without the royal titles, please. After I was finished, Iruka sensei ushered me to a seat next to Sasuke Teme. I went and sat next to him. He didn't look bothered by this at all. Iruka sensei then began to tell us about the exams. First will be the written test. Second will be a fight between two individuals. The winner will continue on to the last parts of the exams. Third, kunai and shuriken throwing. Finally, we'll be displaying in B, A, or S rank jutsu. After Iruka sensei's long speech and wishing us the bestest of luck, he finally handed out the written test. I looked at the written test and scoffed. This is too easy. Written test. 1. What kekkei did the first Hokage possess? 2. Name all the Hokages and tell why they were so famous. 3. Did the second Hokage marry and have children? True or false? 4. The first Hokage's wife, the Lady Mito, was a very powerful woman. Which clan did she originate from? 5. During the time of the first Hokage, Konoha and Uzushiogakure have a very special alliance. Who was the Whirlpool Daimyo that made the alliance with the first Hokage? 6. After the fall of Uzu no Kuni, the royal family of Uzu was thought to have been killed off, but young girl was escorted here to Konoha before the invasions. She was the last of the royals of Uzu. Who was she? 7. What did the royal family of Uzu specialize in? 8. Name all the 5 great shinobi villages and name their leaders. 9. What are the geographic advantages of each of the 5 great shinobi villages? 10. Bonus. Why do you want to become a shinobi? After 30 minutes all the students finished their tests and turned it in. A few minutes later, Iruka came with the results. He then called out the students who failed in the written exams. The students were mostly civilians. After the rest of the failing student left, the second part of the exams were next. The remaining students went outside onto the courtyard. The fight was just about to begin. First match. Rina Makiyako vs civilian boy. The match won in Rina injuring the boy. Second match. Sakura Haruno vs civilian girl. The match ended in Sakura knocking out the girl. Third match. Shikamaru Nara vs Choji Akamichi. It ended in a draw. They didn't want to fight. Fourth match. Ino Yamanaka vs Hinata Hyuga. It also ends in a draw. They fought equally. Fifth match. Civilian girl vs civilian girl. Civilian girl #1-1, she is Renko. Sixth match. Kiba Inazuka vs Kinwei. Kiba barely won, but he still won. Seventh match. Shino Aburame vs Shin Rui. Shino won by making Shin disgusted with his bugs. Final match. Akihito Uzumaki Shinji vs Sasuke Uchiha. It also ended in a draw. After the matches ended and the other competitors were eliminated, they finally went through the final part of the exams showing A, B, A, or S rank jutsus. All of the others passed, except for Rina. Her jutsu exploded in her face, hospitalizing her. After the final exams were over, the other were given their Hite 8 or headbands. Everyone quickly left except for Hinata and Akihito. "Hinata-chan, please wait," said Akihito. Hinata stopped walking and looked at Akihito. "I promised that after the exams I will go with you on a date, so what your answer, will you go with me?" Hinata thought for a moment, then she accepted the offer. I then invited her to go with me to a restaurant I had reserved just for us. On our way to the restaurant I asked Hinata what she liked. She told me all sorts of things about her life and what she personally loved. We finally arrived at the restaurant and went inside. We ordered our meals and continued to talk about our interest and lives. Our food finally arrived and we ate while continuing our conversation. While Hinata was talking about the main and branch families her clan was divided into. I had the urge to look outside the window behind Hinata. When I finally looked out I saw Hiyashi standing outside with a dark aura surrounding him, and he was holding a kunai and scraping the window with it. Just imagine him holding a kunai, not the gun. I ended up finishing our date early because of Hiyashi's unusual behavior. We left the restaurant and headed towards the carriage. The ride to her clan compound was mostly quiet. When we finally arrived we saw Hiyashi waiting outside the clan gates with a few of his guards. We finally arrived in front of her father. I helped escort her outside, but not without kissing her cheek and asking her for another date. When she was finally outside she greeted her father and went inside her home, leaving Hiyashi outside. Hiyashi then turned to face me and said, "If you touch my daughter, I will 8 trigrams 64 pound you back to Kyoto." I nodded at his statement and he turned around and went inside. I was scared at his warning, but I just couldn't stop thinking of her. She was just right. I wonder what tomorrow will hold. After the welcoming celebration at the Hyuga clan compound. After the celebration the Hokage was walking back to the Hokage tower to finish some paperwork. When he finally arrived he called for 2 of his Anbu agents. They came at his orders. "Panther and Possum, I have a special task I need you 2 to do. I need you 2 to investigate the Crown Prince, secretly. No one is supposed to know of this. If you find any significant detail, inform me of it." After given their orders the 2 Anbu agents quickly disappeared, leaving the old Hokage with his thoughts. I wonder what they will find about our mysterious Crown Prince. Hyuga clan compound, Hinata's room. After bidding his farewell to the Hokage, Hiyashi went to his daughter's room. Meanwhile, Hinata was finished taking off her kimono and was about to put her nightgown when her bedroom door burst open. revealing a livid Hiyashi with his Byakugan activated. Before he could say anything, Hinata screamed, "Ah, my father is a pervert, guards help me." Hiyashi was confused, but then he started to notice that Hinata wasn't wearing anything except her bra and undies. He then blushed and went outside to wait until Hinata finished putting on her clothes. While waiting, the Hyuga patrol unit arrived to take out an intruder because they heard Lady Hinata yelling out a pervert. Hiyashi's eyes widened until he told them that it was nothing and quickly dismissed them. Hinata finally finished putting on her nightgown and called her father in. Hiyashi came inside without his Byakugan activated and sat down at the table. "Hinata, we need to talk about your relationship with that prince." Hinata nodded. "Hinata, if he touches you inappropriately, just tell me and I will cancel the marriage agreement. I don't want a son-in-law who's a pervert." Hinata was surprised. "Father, don't worry. The prince seems to be a polite young man. I will give him a chance. If he's good enough I will consider this marriage, if not I will be more than willing to break off the marriage agreement." Hiyashi nodded, quickly left Hinata's room and went to his office. When he got there, two Hyuga elders were already waiting for him. "Hiyashi, we heard that you went to your daughter's room. And when you got there you activated your Byakugan while she was undressed," said Hyuga elder number 1. "Indeed, you not only broke clan laws of activating your Byakugan inside the clan compound, but you invaded your daughter's personal space." "I understand, honorable elders, however I only went there to talk to my daughter about the prince." "We understand, but if word got out that you entered your daughter's bedroom while she was undressed, it will be a scandal that sully our clan's reputation." "I understand, that is why I took the precaution of silencing the branch members who heard by threatening them with the seal." The elders nodded and they left, leaving Hiyashi with his thoughts. Unknown POV. I was standing outside my balcony overlooking Kyoto. The city was bustling with busy people going on with their lives. But that will all change soon enough. "Your Highness, all the troops are ready." "When will we attack?" said a commander. "We won't attack now, we will wait for the fire festival to launch our assault. After that we can overthrow the fire daimyo. Then I will be the new fire daimyo." "I understand, but what about the crown prince?" "I have already sent assassins to deal with the crown prince. With him out of the way, I will finally claim my right place as ruler of the land of fire." After the graduation exams were over, the Hokage and all the Junin senseis gathered at the Hokage Tower. The graduation exams are over and the graduating students are ready. Since the reorganization of the Ninja Academy, the students have been showing promise. I have a new way of placing teams. They will be divided in the areas they specialize in. Now listen up. Kakashi will be heading the diplomatic team. Your team is responsible for escorting people to their destination. Your team members are consistent of Crown Prince Akihito Shinji, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno. Asuma will be heading the tactical team. Your team is responsible for laying out battle strategy and ideas. Your team members are consistent of Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, and Choji Yamanaka. Kurenai will be heading the tracking team. Your team is responsible for tracking and hunting down missing nin or helping locate missing objects or things. Your team members are consistent of Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, and Kiba Inuzuka. You have now heard your teams, be ready. Dismissed, said the Hokage. As all the Junin flocked towards the exit, Kakashi chose to remain, which surprised the Hokage. "Kakashi, is there something wrong?" asked the Hokage. "Lord Hokage, I wish to talk to you about an urgent matter, privately." The Hokage signaled for his Anbu to leave. After the Anbu left, Kakashi turned to the Hokage. "Lord Hokage, there is something familiar about the Crown Prince, but I can't seem to place my finger on it." The Hokage agreed to this. "I agree, the prince brings a familiar feeling that I haven't felt in a very long time." "What type of feeling, Lord Hokage?" "The feeling he brings is the feeling of happiness, relief, and joy. The same feeling that Naruto always brings." After saying this, the Hokage looked at the picture he and Naruto took when Naruto was just 5 years old. "But don't worry, Kakashi, I also felt something familiar about the prince. Which is why I have done a secret investigation on him. I want you to tell me what the prince does and what he says." Kakashi nodded at this, left the Hokage's office quickly. When Kakashi left, the Hokage returned to reading his Icha Icha book. Next day, at the academy, everyone was waiting patiently for Iruka to announce the teams. Most were eating their nails and looking at the clock while the others just waited patiently. After what felt like an eternity, Iruka finally walked inside. Okay students, I know that you have been waiting for a long time for your teams, so here they are. The diplomatic team are Akihito Shinji, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno. Your sensei is Kakashi Hitaki. The tactical team are Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, and Choji Akamichi. Your sensei is Asuma Sarutobi. Finally, the tracking team are Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, and Kiba Inazuka. Your sensei is Kurenai Yuhi. That is all, now wait for sensei to come pick you brats up. Sweet, I get to be with Hinata-chan, Kiba said. When Akihito heard this he was livid. He forgot that Kiba also has a crush on Hinata. Hey dog breath, she's my fiancé. So stay away from her. Kiba looked at Akihito with a smirk on his face. Why? Scared that I'll steal her away from you? Why you little? I am here for the tracking team. Akihito looked to the door and saw a very beautiful woman with red ruby eyes. The members of the tracking team stood up and went to their sensei. Hinata-chan, I was hoping if you'd like to have dinner with me at my family estate, asked Akihito. Hinata thought for a moment. I'll accept if all of classmates are invited. Akihito asked, only the graduated ones. At this Hinata nodded. Akihito was kinda sad that he wouldn't have a private dinner with Hinata, but at least she's there, what's the harm in that? After Kurenai and her team left, Akihito quickly summoned an attendant and told him to prepare a dinner party with all of Hinata's favorite dishes. A few minutes later Asuma came to get his team, leaving only the diplomatic team to wait for the overly late sensei. So Akihito-san, what's it like living in the royal palace? Asked Sakura. Do you really want to know? I asked. Sakura nodded at this. Akihito was trying to think of how to answer Sakura's question without sounding sarcastic. Well, it's mostly boring. But it's kind of fun if you have servants who answer to your every whims and needs. Sakura had stars in her eyes when she heard Akihito talking about palace life. It sounds like a dream come true for her. After hours of Sakura questioning Akihito about his personal life, Kakashi finally arrived. Yo, sorry I'm late but Before Kakashi could finish his explanation, Akihito put him to it. Save your pathetic excuse for someone who believes. You're 2 hours late, I think you forgot what I told you about your little perverted books. Kakashi gulped and nervously laughed. Well, my little students seem to be very grumpy. Kakashi looked at the faces of his students and sweat dropped. This is going to be a very long year. Training Ground 7. After getting his students from their classroom, Kakashi took them to Training Ground 7 to introduce themselves to each other. So listen up, to get to know each other better you are going to introduce yourself, said Kakashi. Akihito, Sasuke, and Sakura looked at each other. But sensei, how are we going to introduce ourselves? Asked Sakura. Kakashi looked at Sakura as if she was stupid. Is she kidding me right now? Apparently not, the look in her eyes tell otherwise. I can't believe she was Kunoichi of the year. Okay, I am Kakashi Hitaki, sensei of the diplomatic team. My likes, dislikes, and dreams are none of your business. Now your turn, broody boy. Akihito and Sakura turned to Sasuke, who was glaring daggers at Kakashi, who doesn't seem to care. He then did the famous Uchiha, HN. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I come from the prestigious Uchiha clan. I like my clan Judas, tomatoes, my family, and power. I dislike idiots, unworthy shinobi, and pathetic people. My dream is to surpass Itachi, my elder brother. Sasuke's voice was monotone from the beginning of his introduction but took a menacing tone when he mentioned his dream. Everyone looked at Sasuke with a judgmental look. Okay, that was nice. Now Pinky, it's your turn, said Kakashi, trying to lighten up the mood. Sakura turned towards everyone. Hi, my name is Sakura Haruno. I am from a civilian clan. I like medical ninjutas and a certain someone blush. I dislike rapists, perverts, pedophiles, people who don't take their jobs seriously, and idiots. My dream is to be the greatest medical kunoichi like Tsunade-sama. That's a nice dream, Sakura. Maybe one day you will surpass Tsunade-sama, said Kakashi. He then turned to Akihito and told him that it was his turn. I am Akihito Shinji. I am a descendant of the Shinji and Uzumaki royal families, but I am also related to one of the founding clans of Konoha, the Senju clan. I like ramen, my grandfather, Little Mika, Hinata Hime, Ken, Nin, and Fuinjudas. I also like Hokage-san. I dislike arrogant people, rapists, perverts, missing nins, traitors, cowards, and those who disregard innocent lives. My dream is to bring peace in this corrupt and dangerous world. Kakashi raised an eyebrow when Akihito mentioned that he liked the Hokage. Akihito, why do you like the Hokage? He brings that grandfatherly feeling that I feel when I'm with my grandfather, answered Akihito. Kakashi considered telling the Hokage this when he remembered what his dream was. And why do I want to bring peace in this world? Akihito looked at Kakashi for a moment before answering, so that people can live a peaceful life, free of worry and fear. I wish to establish a peaceful rule so that the future generation doesn't have to go through what we in past shinobi had to go through. Kakashi was gobsmacked at what the young prince wished to accomplish. If he establishes that peace he dreams so much, people will no longer have to fight and they can finally live peacefully. Kakashi smiled at what his students wished to accomplish. Those were very extraordinary dreams, but I guess I will see if those will come true tomorrow. Suddenly everyone's eyes were on Kakashi. But I thought we already became genins, said Sakura. Kakashi looked at her and shook his head. No, that was a simple test. The real genin tests begins tomorrow if you wish to pass. I suggest you don't eat anything or you will vomit. Kakashi was about to leave when he suddenly remembered something. Oh, and remember this rule. Those who disobey orders are trash, but those who abandon friends and comrades are worse than scum. And with that Kakashi turned and sunshined away. When Kakashi left, Akihito turned to his new teammates and asked if they wanted to come and have dinner with him at his estate. Sakura agreed with no hesitation and they both turned to Sasuke, who was looking blankly at them. When Sasuke saw that his teammates won't leave him alone, he also agreed. Akihito then told them that the dinner party was at 6:30 p.m. They left and returned to their homes. Uchiha clan compound. When Sasuke returned home, his parents were already waiting for him. They asked him how his day was and he replied that it was fine, like every other day. Sasuke, I heard that you are teammates with the Crown Prince, asked Fugaku. Sasuke turned to his father and nodded. I want you to befriend the Crown Prince, said Fugaku. Why should I do that, father? Sasuke said sarcastically. Fugaku noted Sasuke's sarcastic remark and paid no mind to it. Just do what you're told, our clan needs some powerful allies in case something happens. Sasuke looked suspiciously at his father and then turned to leave. Oh, I almost forgot. I was invited by the prince to dine with him at his estate. What should I do, father? Fugaku praised this good opportunity. Sasuke, go to the estate and try to befriend the prince. Make sure he doesn't find your actions suspicious. Sasuke scoffed at his father's words. He only cares about power, why doesn't he care about me too? Sasuke clenched his fists and left to the Uchiha clan's personal training grounds, UCPTG. The royal Uzumaki estate. When Akihito arrived home, he quickly went to the gardens to pick some flowers for Hinata. After he found the flowers, he went to his office. Your Highness, the food are almost ready for the dinner party tonight, said an attendant Jang. Akihito nodded and smiled at this. And how about the pool and theater? They are all ready, Your Highness. Excellent, Hinata Hime is so gonna love this. Are there extra snacks? Attendant Jang nodded and added that the games are also ready. Akihito was overly excited about tonight's dinner party. Hyuga clan compound. To-sama, I will be fine. It's not like the prince is going to eat me. All of our classmates are invited, so I am not going to be alone. Hiyashi was still adamant about Hinata going. He had a bad feeling that the dinner is not going to end good. After Hinata dressed in a presentable kimono, she bid farewell to her father and little sister, Hanabi. She went outside the clan compound and was met with the royal carriage waiting for her. When she went inside, she was greeted by Sakura, Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino. No one's POV. Hey Hinata, excited about the dinner? Asked Ino. Hinata nodded and looked outside. While she looked outside, she thought about the prince. The prince seems to be a great person, but my heart only belongs to Naruto. My lords and ladies, is there anyone missing? Asked the coachman. Yes, Sasuke and Kiba, replied Sakura. And don't forget about Shino, reminded Ino. The coachman nodded and headed towards the Inuzuka compound first. When he arrived, Kiba was already standing in front of his clan compound with an annoyed face. Hey dude, I have been standing here for 30 minutes. "Where have you been?" asked Kiba while getting inside the carriage. The coachman muttered an apology and left for the Aburame clan compound. The ride to the Aburame clan compound was mostly quiet, well except for Kiba, who was trying to flirt with Hinata. Hinata seems to not be paying attention to anything Kiba was saying. She looks lost in her own little world. Shikamaru was taking a little nap while Choji was drooling at imagining what delicious food were at the dinner party. Ino and Sakura, well, they were busy glaring at each other. If you look a little closely you will see electricity being shoot outside of their eyes, being directed at each other. All of them were so busy with their own thing that they didn't notice that Shino was already inside the carriage. "Have you guys ever been to the Royal District?" asked Shino in his usual monotone voice. Everyone except for Shikamaru let out a surprised shriek. They then looked at the source of the voice. "Shino, how long have you been sitting over there?" asked a surprised Kiba. "Long enough to hear you trying to ask Hinata out when she is clearly engaged to the crown prince." Everyone's sweat dropped and Shino asked again, "Have you guys ever been to the Royal District?" Everyone shook their heads no. "I have never been there, but I hear that it's really beautiful." "The Royal District is filled with royal estates," said Sakura. Everyone nodded their heads, seemingly impressed with what they heard. Then Shikamaru added, "It also houses many servants and samurai who clean, care, and protect the estates." After a few minutes of learning new things about the Royal District, for example, entry to the Royal District is prohibited from the public, only royalty is allowed. They finally arrived at the Uchiha clan compound. Inside the Uchiha compound, they waited for Sasuke to come inside. Meanwhile Sasuke looked at his father who was glaring at him. He looked away and got inside the carriage. The ride to the Royal District was now quiet when Sasuke came into the carriage. Everyone looked at him. He was glaring outside the windows and was surrounded by a dark aura. No one wanted to suffer from Sasuke's insults, so no one tried talking to him. After what felt like forever, they finally arrived in front of the gates to the Royal Districts. The coachman gave an identification card to the security team and the security team let them pass as guests of the Crown Prince. Now everyone was waiting to see what was on the other side, even Shikamaru, who was now fully awake. The gates opened and they were met with the majestic buildings that covered the vast lands of the Royal Districts. They stared with awe at the tall, majestic building. Even Sasuke, who was in a sour mood, was amazed but didn't show it. They passed estate after estate and finally arrived at one of the Uzumaki royal family's estate. The carriage stopped and they were met with many servants who were lining outside to greet them. They all came outside of the carriage. "Welcome to the royal estate, my lords and ladies," the servants said in unison. They were then escorted inside the estate. They were taken to the royal office where Akihito was anxiously waiting for them. Meanwhile with Akihito, "Hinata is coming. I hope she likes the gift I'm going to give her. I gone over every fun activity we were doing." I looked at the schedules and nodded. "This party is going to be the party of the century." The doors to the office finally opened and in walked everyone single one of my classmates. "I am so happy you guys are here," I said in an overly excited voice. Everyone looked at me amusingly. I then dismissed attendant Jang and told them to sit down on the sofas. When they all sat down, I went through the schedule of many of the activities. Schedule 1. A tour of the estate. 2. Games. Hide and seek, classic, catch the runaway cat, moving targets, etc. 3. Theater. War of the Daimyo. Whirlpool and fire, 1 hour 45 minutes. 4. A dip in the pool, 1 hour 30 minutes. 4. Dinner. After telling the schedule to everyone, I told them the rules of the estate. Rule number 1. Don't touch anything. Rule number 2. Don't wander around without assistance, accompany from the servants or attendants. Finally, rule number 3. Never go to the rooms on the eastern side. Okay, let's get this party on the road. No one's POV. We first went for a tour of the estate. On our way they were introduced to some members of the Uzumaki royal family. "Hey Akihito, who is this beautiful woman?" asked Ino while admiring the woman on the portrait. I looked at the portrait and smiled. "She is Princess Lee wa Uzumaki, the daughter of Whirlpool Daimyo Jinmu and Lady Akane of the royal family of the Land of Lightning." The portrait next to hers is her overprotective brother, Whirlpool Daimyo Haruto Uzumaki. Princess Lee wa Uzumaki, Whirlpool Daimyo Haruto Uzumaki. When told, Sakura widens her eyes in realization. You mean she is Princess Li Hua, the princess that was killed by Fire Daimyo Akito Shinji? I looked at her and nodded. Actually, that's far from the truth. That was just a cover story for what actually happened. Then what actually happened? Asked a curious Shikamaru. The others also nodded, curious about what really happened. If you want to know, we have to start from the beginning. The story you are about to hear is a story about romance, forbidden love, and tragedy. The story began at the coronation of Crown Prince Haruto as the new daimyo since the passing of his father. Everyone daimyo was invited. Among the daimyos invited was Fire Daimyo Akito Shinji. Famous for his womanizing ways, Akito was quickly smitten by the beautiful and generous sister of the new Whirlpool daimyo. He asked for her hand in marriage but was flatly denied by Whirlpool daimyo Haruto. Quote, when he returned back to Kyoto, he couldn't get his mind of her. Even with the many consorts, concubines, and mistresses he could never get his mind off of her. Day by day his obsession over Princess Li Hua grew. This resulted in him hiring members of the Uchiha clan to kidnap her from Uzu no Kuni. The Uchiha members caught Princess Li Hua and escaped from the security alarms of the Uzumaki clan by using their kamui. When she taken to Fire Daimyo Akito's chambers, she was scared. Fire Daimyo Akito kept her locked inside his personal chambers where he can only admire her. He took care of the princess, just like how Daimyo Haruto has done. He was so obsessed over her that he didn't pay attention to any other woman, even his many consorts, etc. in the harem. 3 months after her kidnapping, Princess Li Hua was starting to fall in love with Akito, and the same can be said about him. One night, they finally made love under the many sakura trees that surrounded the imperial gardens. She ended up pregnant with his first children. At this everyone's eyes widened. You heard right, children, she was pregnant with twins. When told by the royal physician, Akito was ecstatic that he immediately sent word to Haruto. When Haruto got word that his sister was kidnapped by Akito, he was mad, but that quickly disappeared when he was told his sister was pregnant with first niece, nephew, or niece. But that happiness quickly disappeared. You see, Akito's former favorite concubine was jealous because of the love that Akito showed Li Hua. So she poisoned Li Hua with a poison that makes even those with Uzumaki blood vulnerable. When Li Hua was poisoned, she lost her other child, which was a girl, and the other survived, which was a boy. She was devastated at the loss of her children that she died right after giving birth to a healthy baby boy, the future Fire Daimyo Hikaru. Akito was devastated at the death of his beloved, but none took it harder than her brother. When Haruto got word that his sister was dead, he went blind with rage. His beloved sister was dead. Due to a misunderstanding, Haruto blamed Akito for the death of his sister, and this resulted in the War of the Daimyos. This war lasted for over 500 years until it was declared over when Whirlpool Daimyo Daisuke Uzumaki and Fire Daimyo Minamoto Shinji decided to put the past behind them and renewed their alliance. The story ends there. When I looked back to my friends, they had tears in their eyes. They then began crying at how cruel it was for Li Hua. I nodded in understanding. Then is there a portrait of Fire Daimyo Akito Shinji and Fire Daimyo Hikaru? Asked Hinata. I pointed to 2 portraits right next to Whirlpool Daimyo Haruto Uzumaki. Fire Daimyo Akito Shinji. Fire Daimyo Hikaru Uzumaki Shinji. They looked at the portraits and admired how handsome they looked. After admiring the portraits, we continued on with the tour. After we finished the tour, we played games. Ready or not, here I come, said Shino. He sent out his bugs to find everyone. He first found Shikamaru sleeping beneath the sakura tree outside the gardens. He then continued to locate the others. One by one he found them all, leaving only Akihito and Sasuke left. He focused on the bugs he dispatched. A minute later his bugs found the chakra signature of Akihito and Naruto in the theater room. He and the others went there and found the Akihito and Sasuke glaring at each other. I finally found the both of you, said Shino. They seemed to not have heard it as they still continued to glare at each other. Hinata cleared her throat and it still didn't work. Sakura was getting impatient and yelled, "Knock it off, you two." They seemed to have heard as they broke up from their glare. What? They both yelled. Shikamaru shook his head in annoyance and asked Akihito if they can continue on with the schedule. Akihito nodded and told them that since they were in the theater room they should watch the movie. They all watched the movie with teary eyes. This movie was based on the love story of Fire Daimyo Akito Shinji and the beloved Princess Lee Wa Uzumaki. They now understood what caused the long war between the whirlpool and fire. After this they all went to take a dip in the pool. The boys were all shirtless and wearing only their shorts while the girls were wearing bikinis showcasing their feminine bodies. Hinata-chan, you look why, said a grinning Kiba. Akihito glared at Kiba. Hey pervert, enjoy the pool or I am gonna kick you out. Kiba looked annoyed at Akihito for ruining his flirting with Hinata but said nothing since he didn't want to leave yet. Hinata, who was swimming, swam next to Akihito and asked him why he and Sasuke were glaring at each other. That Teme demanded me to accept him as my friend, I said childishly. Hinata laughed at what Akihito said. She then remembered Naruto, who said exactly the same thing about Sasuke. She spoke with Akihito for a long time, then they were told by the attendant that dinner was ready. They all stood up from the pool and put on their robes provided while their clothes were being Febrezed. They all followed attendant Jang to the dining room. When they arrived, there on the table were numerous prepared food. They all sat at the dining table and began to eat. Akihito, I thank you for inviting us to your home, said Sakura. That's munch, true, thank you, munch, munch. Akihito, said Choji. Everyone else also thanked Akihito for the invitation. They then talked about their interests and hobbies. Hinata-hime, I have something for you, I said. Hinata looked at Akihito and blushed when she heard the hime part. Hime, princess. I signaled for attendant Jang to bring the gift. I turned to Hinata and gave a gift to her. This is my gift for you, Hinata-hime. This gift signifies our engagement and my love for you. While I say this I glance at Kiba with a smirk on my face. Kiba looks like he's ready to kill. Ha, in your face dog breath. You are not stealing her away from me. Shout out to CH276ZJ for the comment. When Hinata opened her gift she gasped in surprise. The bracelet was beautiful and looked pretty expensive. The bracelet. Hinata thanked Akihito for the gift and put next to her. Akihito noticed this and asked, Hinata-hime, are you not going to wear it? Hinata didn't want to hurt the prince's feelings so she wore it. The dinner went on without a hitch. Outside the royal district, 5 individuals were standing at the edge of the forest of death. Leader Sama, we have new orders from the prince. We have a change of plans. We will not strike tonight. We strike when the prince is on his first mission outside Konoha. The leader nodded his head and quickly left with his group of highly skilled assassins. Morning. As the sun shines greatly on the horizon and as birds chirp lovingly in the air. A young man with bright blonde hair and with a mask that's similar to that of the copycat ninja runs quickly to Training Ground 7 with a lunchbox in hand. When he arrives his teammates were already there waiting for him. Hey guys, I hope I am not late, asked a very exhausted Akihito. Sakura and Sasuke just looked at him and shook their heads. Actually, you are not late, Akihito. It's our sensei that's late, said a really pissed off Sakura. Akihito wasn't surprised when Sakura said that Kakashi was late, again. He was really thinking of hunting down the perverted idiot that wrote the damn books to make sure that arrives on time. Anyway, I brought some breakfast for all of us if you guys haven't had breakfast. Sakura and Sasuke looked at Akihito as if he was stupid or something. Akihito, didn't you hear what Kakashi-sensei said yesterday? We can't eat or else we'll vomit, said Sakura. That's where you're wrong, Sakura. Sakura was surprised when Akihito said that she was wrong. In her entire life no one has said that she was wrong. Kakashi-sensei suggested we don't eat or else we'll vomit. But think hard on this, how do we get chakra? Sakura realized her mistake and looked down. She hasn't eaten yet and food helps make chakra in order for shinobi to fight. But don't worry, I brought each of us breakfast and I haven't eaten yet. Sakura looked thankful while Sasuke was still brooding. Thank you, Akihito. Akihito looked at Sasuke who was looking at his egg sandwich with hungry eyes. Hey broody, want some? Sasuke just looked at him but then nodded. They all sat down and ate their breakfast, which consisted of steamed rice, miso soup, fermented soybeans, pickled vegetables, and seasoned dried seaweed. After they finished breakfast they did some little warm-up in order to wait for Kakashi's arrival. 2 hours later, water style, ice spears, fire style, Great Fireball Jutsu. Sasuke and Akihito faced off against each other in order to test their jutsus. Sakura was watching from the sidelines with a grim look on her face. Sasuke and Akihito glared at each other with hate. Before they can throw another jutsu, Kakashi finally arrived. Hey, what'd I miss? Sasuke and Akihito looked away from each other and focused their glare at Kakashi, who late yet again. Kakashi just laughed it away. So you're all here, good. Now let's begin with the test. You see these two bells over here? I want you guys to get these bells from me. The two who get the bells will pass, but the one who doesn't will return to the academy. Show me everything you got. Sasuke and Sakura nodded their heads, determined to get the bells and pass. While Akihito was planning his next moves swiftly and accurately, Kakashi began the exam as Sasuke and Sakura went into the forest followed by Kakashi. Akihito masked his chakra and hid behind a bush while examining Kakashi's movements. Sasuke was the first one to go and fight Kakashi. Sasuke with his usual arrogance blabbed on and on how only an Uchiha can defeat an Uchiha. Due to this he charged right at Kakashi without thinking twice. Fire style. Great Fireball Jutsu. Kakashi just looked at his book and disappeared into thin air. Huh, where'd he go? Said a surprised Sasuke. He looked around and around but he still can't find Kakashi. Then he thought again. It was a substitution jutsu. So it's either up, left, right, or down. He looked down and Kakashi popped up from the earth and knocked Sasuke out. Sasuke was out cold and Kakashi formed a hole in the ground and threw Sasuke inside and sealed it with only his head popping out. Then Kakashi left to look for Sakura. Kakashi didn't have to look for long though, cause he found Sakura hunched over a tree top overlooking the entire training ground. Sakura's back was facing Kakashi so she didn't see Kakashi. Kakashi teleported behind Sakura and casted a realistic-looking genjutsu over Sakura. Genjutsu. Sakura, who was perching over the treetop, was out looking for her sensei and teammates. I wonder, where are they? After a few minutes of looking she saw Sasuke walking out of the forest. She was about to go to him, but refrained from doing it when she saw he was all covered in blood. He hunched forward and vomited blood. She was about to help him when Kakashi appeared and cut his head off. Kakashi then disappeared. Sakura was terrified when she saw her crush decapitated in cold blood. She was so busy in her thoughts that she didn't notice Kakashi appear in front of her and also pierce her heart. She let out a loud shriek and looked at Kakashi with wide eyes. Kakashi leaned towards her and whispered in her ear, "Now you may join your beloved in the afterlife. This is what weak links get." Sakura dropped down and lay dead. Genjutsu end. When Kakashi saw Sakura faint when she supposedly died, he shook his head in disappointment, and she was supposed to be Kunoichi of the year. She can't even handle a D-rank genjutsu. Oh well, I need to look for that prince now. When Kakashi left, Akihito, who was observing Kakashi's every move, finally came out of his little hiding spot. From what he observed of Kakashi's every movement, he came up with the solution, that he alone can't take Kakashi on. So he needs help. His teammates can do the trick. Wait, how can I forget? Kakashi's last words when he left yesterday were that those who don't follow orders are trash, but those who abandon comrades are worse than scum. It's a test. He knows that we can't take him on alone, so he's testing us. If we can work as a team, we can hopefully beat him and take the bells. With this newfound knowledge, Akihito went to wake his teammates up. He woke Sakura up first. When she woke up, they then went to look for Sasuke. They searched for Sasuke throughout the forest while skillfully avoiding Kakashi, who was still looking for Akihito. Where can the sneaky prince be? Thought Kakashi while looking for Akihito. Akihito and Sakura found Sasuke stuck in the hole he was forcefully put inside. When Sasuke saw Akihito and Sakura coming to help, he glared at them with enough intensity to make even Madara jealous. Akihito knew that Sasuke didn't want their help, but he still helped Sakura get Sasuke out. He knew that this hurt Sasuke's Uchiha pride. "What are you guys doing? I didn't need help," said a livid Sasuke. "Oh, shut up, will you? We are just trying to help you." "We need your help," said Akihito. Sasuke just looked at them with a disinterested look. "I know you don't like us, but we need your help in defeating Kakashi," said Akihito. "And why would I do that?" said Sasuke. "Because this test is based on teamwork. Go on. Look, Kakashi knows that we can't beat him by going at him alone. He wants all of us to cooperate with each other so we can have a chance of even laying a jutsu on his lame head. So are you willing to help us? Sasuke thought of this for a moment and nodded. Okay, here's the plan. While Akihito was busy explaining the plan, we go back to Kakashi, who is still searching for Akihito. I wonder where Akihito is hiding. When Kakashi was looking around the forest, Sasuke and Akihito jumped out of the forest and sent their combined jutsu at Kakashi. Fire style. Fire bullets. Water style. Water blades. When Kakashi turned around, he saw a combination of jutsus hurtling at him. He tried to jump away, but he was too late. The combined jutsus made contact with him and it sent him flying all the way to the other side of the training grounds. When Akihito and Sasuke made their way to Kakashi, Kakashi was laying on the ground with tattered clothes and a bloody face. Akihito made his way to Kakashi when two Kakashis appeared behind him and Sasuke and punched them. Akihito and Sasuke exploded. Kakashi's eye widened. They were shadow clones. Then where are they? Oh, Kakashi. Kakashi looked behind him and saw all of them looking at him with a hint of mischief. He looked carefully at them and saw that they were hiding something behind them. There you are, I was wondering where you were hiding. Akihito smiled at Kakashi. Well, we were busy. Busy with what? Asked Kakashi. We were busy getting the limited edition of Icha books that were just released. I noticed that you were reading an old book. That is why I got the limited edition books that were just released. Kakashi sent an unamused look at Akihito. Look, if you think you can bribe me, it's not gonna work. Akihito, Sasuke, and Sakura looked at each other with a confused look. Then Akihito chuckled. You must be mistaken, Kakashi-sensei. We got the books so we can burn them in front of you. Kakashi's eye widened. What? If you give us the bells, we will consider not burning the books. If not, you know what will happen. Kakashi thought for a moment, then shook his head. No. Oh well, your loss. Now. When Akihito said, now, Sakura poured gasoline over all the books and Sasuke casted the fire style great fireball just over the books. In a second the books went into flames. Kakashi screamed, no. Okay, I will give you the bells. Kakashi gave Akihito the bells and told them that they all passed. All of them were so happy that they passed, and Akihito told his teammates that this calls for a celebration. Let's go to the Akimichi's place and celebrate. Damn great, Akihito nervously laughed. Kakashi narrowed his eye at Akihito's little slip-up. He almost said Datbayo. When Kakashi was about to ask Akihito about his little slip-up, Akihito reminded him of something. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Those were all of the limited edition in Konoha. Kakashi screamed and went to extinguish the fire. His students just laughed at him and went on their way to celebrate. Hokage Tower. The Hokage and the other senseis were waiting for Kakashi to arrive. They were getting restless when Kakashi finally arrived with burned clothes and a half-burned book. Kakashi, what happened to you? Kurenai said sarcastically. Kakashi looked at Kurenai and said, if you don't have devils for students, shut up. Everyone was surprised of Kakashi's outburst, especially Kurenai. Okay, Kakashi, that's enough, but tell us, what happened? Asked the Hokage. Kakashi began to tell his tale of his students to the other senseis and the Hokage. When he finished telling his story, everyone laughed at how unfortunate for him to get those kinds of students. After that, the Hokage asked if his students passed. He said yes, and this surprised everyone since he usually fails every students. So Kakashi, mind telling us why you suddenly had a change of heart? Asked the Hokage. They not only burned all the latest edition of Icha books, but they worked as a team, and they also seemed to be very sneaky. Especially Akihito. I couldn't find him when I was looking for him all over the training ground. That prince is really a sneaky individual. The Hokage nodded. Then he dismissed all the other senseis except for Kakashi. Kakashi, do you have anything to report about the prince? Kakashi nodded. Lord Hokage, while the prince was talking with his teammates about going to celebrate, he made a little slip up with the word, dat. I think he was about to say datbayo but refrained from doing it. The Hokage nodded at the little information and waited for his Anbu agents to come so he can confirm their discovery. He then dismissed Kakashi and waited for his Anbu agents. After 4 hours of waiting, his agents finally arrived. Lord Hokage, they greeted. What have you found? Said the Hokage. Lord Hokage, per your order. We have investigated the Crown Prince and have found some intriguing new information on him. We have found that the diplomatic team's celebrations were cut short when an Anbu agent arrived and said that the Hokage requested an audience with Akihito. Akihito was disappointed that the celebrations were cut short, but he knew that it must be something important for the Hokage to request his presence. Akihito left with the Anbu agent. On their way, Akihito got to know the Anbu agent a little better. He found out that this agent was one of Hokage Jiji's most trusted and loyal agents. He also learned that Agent Panther, that's his name, was once a shinobi from Kiri, but he defected because of the start of the bloodline purges. You see, Agent Panther was originally from Kirigakure, but he ran away when the bloodline purges began. He was a member of the Yuki clan, but since the 4th Mizukage began the bloodline purges, his clan was brought to near extinction, so he ran away. Hearing this, Akihito was greatly saddened at this. No clan should face near extinction because of something they haven't done. This reminded him of what his clan, the Uzumakis, went through. His clan was a powerful one, but they were brought to the brink of extinction because of something they possessed. He was glad that Hokage Jiji accepted him into Konoha. He is waiting for you, Possum pointed to the Hokage's office. Akihito went into the office and greeted the Hokage, who was lost in thought. Hokage POV. I was busy thinking of what my Anbu agent said. Could it be true? Little Naruto is Akihito. Well, I will confirm it now. Hokage-san, you wanted to see me. I looked up and saw Akihito entering through the door. I smiled at him and pointed at a chair. He sat down at the chair and asked about why I wanted to see him. I wanted to tell you that tomorrow is your training with Itachi Uchiha. I wanted to see if you were okay with this schedule. I then handed a copy of the schedule to him. He looked at it for a few moments, then nodded happily. It's okay, I like the new schedule, he said happily. We then sat awkwardly in silence. He looked at me and I looked at him. So? Well, if there is nothing else, I am taking my leave. Goodbye, Hokage-san. He stood up and waved happily. I looked at him as he was about to leave. Yes, goodbye, Akihito-san. Or should I say, Naruto. I saw him stop in his tracks. He was frozen in place. I stood up and went to stand 3 feet from him. He then turned slowly around and looked at me with sad eyes. I am afraid you are mistaken, Hokage-san. I am not Naruto Uzumaki, I am Akihito Shinji. I never mentioned his last name, then how did you know? Akihito looked nervously around. IKK now because it's common knowledge. I mean, who doesn't know about the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki? I looked sadly at him. Naruto, please, why are you hiding from me? You promised to return, then why are you hiding? Did you know how sad and heartbroken I was when you left? You left without saying goodbye except for that letter. When you left, I blamed myself for it and I vowed to make this village a better place for you to return. I cried at the end. Akihito looked at the Hokage with tears threatening to fall from his eyes. Akihito then came and hugged me. We cried together. I am so sorry, Jiji, but when my paternal grandfather, the fire Daimyo, found me, I left with him because he was the only blood-related person I know. I promised to return to Konoha when the time was right. That's why I came back. I am so sorry, Jiji. We stayed like that for who knows how long until we separated. No one's POV. When me and the Hokage separated from the hug, he wiped away his tears and smiled at me. When are you going to reveal your true identity? The Hokage asked. I was thinking of revealing on the day of the Chunin finals, Akihito replied. The Hokage nodded and smiled sadly. Hokage Jiji, do you mind keeping this secret between us? I don't want anyone else to find out just yet. The Hokage agreed and Akihito bid his real farewell this time. Goodbye, Hokage Jiji, see you on the day of our first mission. The Hokage laughed at Akihito's antics. Then he turned back to read his latest edition of Icha Icha series. Laughed pervertedly. Oh, what a naughty little minx. While the Hokage was doing his work, an Anbu agent with a blank mask slowly went outside to inform his leader of this new information. Unknown POV, I am sure you guys know who this is. In an underground secret hideout, an old man with a frickin' cane was waiting for one of his informatives. Lord Danzo, I found some new information on that prince that you might be interested in. The old man nodded. As you might have guessed, the crown prince Akihito is Naruto Uzumaki. But they are still keeping it a secret until the day of the final exams. The old man, or should I say Danzo, took in this new information and smirked evilly. So, our dear prince is the Kyuubi brat. That's why we couldn't find him. Oh well, let's see what Hiruzen is playing at. Go back and see what else you find. The Anbu agent nodded and returned back to assume his previous position. Spying on the Hokage. Peas. That is so weird. When the agent left, Danzo sat alone in the dark thinking of some other evil thing to do under Hiruzen's nose. The next day finally arrived and Akihito was excited for the training with the Itachi Uchiha, the prodigy of Konoha. Akihito was currently in his own personal training ground reserved only for royalty. While he was waiting, he took the time to reread some information regarding Itachi Uchiha. Okay, let's see. Itachi Uchiha is a prodigy from the prestigious Uchiha clan. One of the youngest to graduate from the academy, he joined the Anbu when he was 10 and became an Anbu captain at the age of 13. He has his own summoning animal, which are the crows. He is well versed in ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, kenjutsu, and fuinjutsu. As a member of the Uchiha clan, his chakra nature is fire, so he has great fire abilities. His personal techniques include the clone explosion jutsu and the crow clone techniques. Akihito continued reading the information regarding Itachi. After a few hours of reading his book, Itachi finally arrived with attendant Jang, whom was leading Itachi to the personal training ground. Your Highness, Itachi Uchiha is here. Akihito looked up from his book and smiled. Welcome Itachi-sensei, you're finally here. I do hope we get along well. As you're my sensei, please just call me Akihito. Itachi looked emotionlessly at Akihito. Thank you, Akihito. But I do believe we should get started now. But I hope you don't mind, I brought a friend. Itachi gestured at the person behind him. Allow me introduce myself. I am Shisui Uchiha. I will be also helping you with your Sharingan training. With another famous Uchiha training him, Akihito was just so excited. Before we begin, you need to be introduced to the Sharingan. Akihito looked confused, but I already know what it is. Itachi looked skeptical. Then what is the Sharingan? The Sharingan is one of the legendary dojutsu. There are only 3 known dojutsu in the world. There is the Rinnegan, said to have been only wielded by the Sage of the Six Paths. Then there is the Sharingan, wielded in only by members of the Uchiha clan. Finally, there is the Byakugan, wielded only by members of the Hyuga clan, where Hinataheim is from. Itachi nodded, acceptable, but that is the perspective of others. To us, the Uchiha, the Sharingan is our pride. We pride ourselves with the knowledge that we wield not only the Sharingan but that we are also descendants of the Sage of the Six Paths. When you wield the Sharingan, you are able to predict the moves of your opponent and also copy their jutsus. That is what the Sharingan means to us Uchiha. Akihito nodded. Then is there any other thing I should know? Yes, you should also know that the Sharingan has other stages. In time you might be able to achieve the Mangekyo Sharingan. Akihito literally had star in his eyes after hearing this. Oh well, enough of this chit-chat. It's training time, said Shisui. Show us what you got, kiddo. Akihito took his stances and looked towards Shisui and Itachi. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Several Akihitos appeared and they were divided into 5 groups with 10 clones. 1st Battalion Attack. The 1st Battalion of Akihitos attacked Shisui and Itachi. The clones threw them powerful water jutsus which Itachi extinguished with a fire jutsu. This caused a very strong mist to cover the training ground. Shisui and Itachi had their guards up, looking towards every direction for the slightest sign of movement. After what felt like forever, 20 Akihitos jumped at them with 3 shurikens on each hand. The clones threw the shurikens straight at them. Shadow Shuriken Jutsu. The shurikens multiplied to almost hundreds of shurikens. Itachi and Shisui shunshined away and appeared a few feet away from the clones. The clones then ran to them head-on. Itachi looked at Shisui and so did Shisui. They nodded at each other and ran towards the clone. Itachi unsheathed his katana and cut down the clones one by one, while Shisui ran through some hand signs and threw some jutsu at the clones. Fire style. Great fireball technique. While Itachi and Shisui battled the clones, Akihito was watching all this from the sideline and talking with the leaders of his clones. Those two are very powerful individuals. If we want to win this fight we must be swift and agile, said clone leader number 1. Akihito nodded at this and looked towards the battle. Akihito, I suggest we send in another clone battalion to distract them while we ready our next attack, said clone leader number 2. Akihito nodded and ordered the third clone leader to go with his battalion and fight Itachi and Shisui. These guys are tough, right, Itachi? Itachi just smirked and nodded. The third clone battalion joined on the other group's attack. Together they managed to distract Itachi and Shisui while the real Akihito and the last two battalion ready their attack. After cutting down the last clone, Itachi and Shisui tried to catch their breaths. These guys really gave us something to fight with. Itachi just looked at Shisui and nodded. Then something clicked in Itachi. Shisui, we didn't fight the real Akihito, right? Shisui looked at Itachi with realization. They have been fighting with clones this entire time and not once did the real Akihito join the fight. They were on their guard once again, looking at every direction from left to right, top to bottom. They had their Sharingan activated and looked everywhere trying to find the slightest movement or a sign of Akihito and his clones. The training ground was eerily silent, only the sound of the wind can be heard. Itachi tried to sense for any chakra signatures but couldn't find any. After what felt like forever, 10 Akihitos appeared, but 5 were original-looking Akihitos while the other 5 were Sharingan-activated Akihitos. Itachi and Shisui were surprised at Akihito's transformation. With his Sharingan activated, he looked eerily Uchiha. Even the smirk on their faces were so Uchiha. Akihito, you finally decided to join the fight. The Akihito clones just smirked and did the famous Uchiha, HN. Itachi and Shisui both smirked. The clones all attacked Itachi and Shisui, throwing jutsu after jutsu. Water style, water wave. Earth style, earth spikes. Lightning style, electric shock. Itachi and Shisui avoided the incoming jutsu and sent jutsu of their own to retaliate. Fire style, phoenix flower jutsu. Wind style, slicing kunai jutsu. Please, I don't know if this a real jutsu, but I just made it up. As the battle between Itachi and Shisui and the clones went on, Akihito and his last clone battalion were hiding in plain sight. He was waiting for the right moment to strike. He then saw Itachi went through some hand signs. He activated his Sharingan and copied the hand signs. When Itachi finished with the hand signs, he yelled out, "Clone Great Explosion." After completing his jutsu, the entire training ground was filled with explosion. Debris and smoke covered the ruins. All the clones that were fight him and Shisui were gone. Akihito and his last clone battalion finally came out of hiding. Akihito activated his Sharingan, making him stand out from the rest of his clones. Clone Captain Akihito number 5, here are your final orders. You and the rest of your clone battalion will fight Shisui Uchiha, I will fight Itachi. Akihito number 5 nodded and ordered his clone battalion to follow him in attacking Shisui. When Akihito number 5 and his clone battalion left to face Shisui, Akihito turned to Itachi. Get ready, sensei, cause I won't go easy on you. I could say the same thing for you. Itachi smirked. Akihito charged at Itachi and exchanged blows. Akihito was fighting Itachi with a kunai. Itachi swung his katana at Akihito, but Akihito blocked it with his kunai. This went on for hours until Akihito was growing tired. Kurama, lend me some chakra please. Kurama the nine-tailed fox gave the chakra to Akihito and went back to his sleep. Suddenly Akihito was covered in red chakra. Itachi became alerted. This looks just like the nine tails chakra, he mutters. Akihito looked at Itachi with newfound determination and attacked. When he attacked Itachi, Itachi was doing his best to avoid his attacks. Akihito was becoming impatient with Itachi avoiding his attacks, so he released a powerful wave of the nine tails chakra. The chakra wave hit Itachi in the chest, instantly knocking him out. Ha, I won. I defeated my sensei. Akihito looked towards Itachi with a big smile on his face. But then he noticed something off with Itachi. His body was beginning to fade. Then all of a sudden the training ground was breaking and falling apart. He closed his eyes and waited for the glass to crash or hit him. When he looked up, he saw Itachi and Shisui standing 3 feet from him. What happened? I knocked you out, Itachi-sensei. Itachi and Shisui just smirked at him. You made the fatal mistake of looking inside my eyes, Akihito. Akihito was confused now. What are you trying to say? I think I forgot to mention that the Sharingan also grants its user with the ability to cast a genjutsu over a person when that person looks directly into their eyes. Akihito was taking this new information in. You lied to me, you cheated. I demand a do-over. Itachi just sent an amused look at him. I'm afraid that isn't possible. I won fair and square, so you just have to accept it. You still have a lot to learn, my prince, but worry not. That is why me, Shisui, and Kakashi are here for. To help you with the Sharingan. Akihito just pouted and looked away. Man, I thought I actually won. Don't be sad, Akihito, you can try again next time. Here is a book to learn more about the Sharingan and the Uchiha clan. Shisui then gave Akihito the book. Well, we still have more Anbu duties to do. So I hope you don't mind, Akihito, but we are leaving. Akihito bid farewell to them as they left. He then looked at the book and went to read more about it. In his personal office, he sat down and read the first chapter. The founder of the Uchiha clan was Indra Otsutsuki, the eldest son of the Sage of the Six Paths. His younger brother, Ashura Otsutsuki, inherited their father's ninja creed, which angered him. He fought against his brother but was defeated. His brother founded the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan. Due to this, he created his own clan to fight with his brother's Senju clan. This was the beginning of the long conflict between the Senju and the Uchiha. Even though his clan was doing well, his brother's clan was great in number, which was why he did a ritual to create more Uchihas. This ritual involved civilians or others not of Uchiha blood to gain Uchiha blood. Due to this ritual, the number of the Uchiha clan increased splendidly. This rivaled his brother's clan. But this also caused complications. The Uchihas created from the ritual have limited access to the true power of the Sharingan, which why they were branded as half-bloods, and the Uchihas from Indra's line were known as pure bloods, for they can have access to the Sharingan true power. Akihito continued reading until he got to an interesting chapter. As the conflict between the Uchiha and Senju escalated, the number of pure blood Uchihas were dropping, increasing low, until there were only 2 left. The last pure blood Uchiha were Madara Uchiha and his brother, Izuna Uchiha. But during one of the battles, Izuna Uchiha was injured, and in the end he succumbed to injuries. Madara was then the last pure blood Uchiha left. When he left his clan without a successor, the half-blood Uchiha then took control of the Uchiha clan. The last of Indra Otsutsuki's direct descendants ended with Madara Uchiha, and the true power of the Sharingan also ended with him. Akihito continued to read the book. He was so into the book that he didn't notice that it was night time. Your Highness, your dinner is here. Akihito looked up from his book and went to eat. After eating, he suddenly remembered that tomorrow was his first mission. He then ordered Attendant Jang to prepare his traveling clothes and his supplies. Attendant Jang left to do what Akihito just ordered. Akihito looked outside the window and smiled to himself. He then took out a piece of paper and wrote a letter. Dearest grandfather, tomorrow is my first ever mission. I can't tell you how excited I am. I will be looking forward to this mission. I will make you proud, grandfather. I am doing just fine here in Konoha. Since my arrival, nothing out of the ordinary has happened. I hope you are okay, and I pray that you are eating healthily. I can't wait to meet you on the Chunin exam finals. Sincerely, your grandson, Akihito Shinji. Akihito then gave his letter to the messenger to deliver it to capital. The messenger quickly left and was on his way to the capital. Akihito saw the messenger from the distance and hoped the letter will reach his grandfather in time. While the messenger was heading to the capital, a masked person attacked the messenger. The messenger fought back but was overpowered when 2 more masked people appeared and killed him. The masked person took the letter from the messenger and gave to his leader. The leader read the letter and smirked under his mask. It's our lucky day, boys. The prince is on his first mission tomorrow. We might just get our presents early than expected. On the treetops of the Konoha forest lurks multiple shadows. A sensei and his students search endlessly for their target, until they finally come upon their target. Licking it paws. This is Blondie Fox, one-eyed pervert. Do you copy? Akihito, how many times do I have to tell you stop calling me that? Exclaimed an embarrassed Kakashi. Akihito just looked at him. Kakashi-sensei, this is our mission and I want it to sound important. How important can it be when it's only catching a stupid cat, said a mad Sasuke. That stupid cat is my great-aunt Takiharu's cat. Let's just go catch it. Return to your positions. All of them returned to their original positions. Emo duck, target in motion. I repeat, target in motion. You and Cherry Blossom move from the west, I'll come from the east. While one-eyed pervert comes from south. Copy that. Roger. HN. The diplomatic team moved in slowly and sneakily. Tora the cat licked his paws and looked behind him and saw the diplomatic team jumping on him from all directions and screamed as he tried to run. Gotcha, screamed Akihito. Akihito caught Tora and screamed happily as he finally caught his aunt's troublesome cat. Let's return back to the Hokage Tower. Hokage Tower. Inside the Hokage's office, Akihito returns Tora to his aunt Takiharu. Oh, there you are, my precious Tora. I have missed you so much. Let mommy give you lots of hugs and kisses to show you how much I love you. Akihito just sweat dropped at his aunt's behavior. Aunt Takiharu, how many times have I told you to stop hugging poor Tora to death, but just show him your love by petting him softly and giving him daily treats. Lady Takiharu just pouts at her grandnephew's words, but Akihito-kun. I tried, but Tora just keeps running away. Akihito gave her an unconvincing look. Did you approach Tora gently? Lady Takiharu shook her head and looked hopefully at Akihito. Akihito sighed. Aunt Takiharu, if you want Tora to like you, stop hugging him to death and start approaching him gently. If you follow what I told you, maybe Tora will start to like you. You can go now. Lady Takiharu nodded and told Akihito that she will follow his advice. She then turned to the Hogue and gave him the money and finally left. The Hokage looked at Akihito, whom was sulking at the corner of the room. Okay, you still have a lot more mission to do. So they're babysitting the counselor's grandson, removing the stone structures at the cliffside, repainting the Senju clan compound, and… The Hokage was interrupted when Akihito screamed frustratingly in the air. Hokage Gigi, you told us that our first mission was today. Instead you gave us lame chores that the civilians can do. The Hokage looked at Akihito and decided to explain why they needed to do those lame chores. Guys, I don't know how to explain it, so just look at the information in the image below. When the Hokage finished explaining the mission ranking system, he turned to look at the diplomatic team. Instead of listening to the Hokage, the diplomatic team and their sensei listened to Akihito telling them a story. So me and my grandfather fought over which ramen was better, and it ended up with my grandfather banning ramen from the palace. The Hokage got mad and yelled, "Listen." The diplomatic team turned to the mad Hokage and apologized. "Sorry, Lord Hokage," they said in unison. The Hokage shook his head. "If you really want a real mission, then I will give you one. Iruka, bring in the client." Iruka nodded and went to escort their client in. When Iruka walked in with the client, the entire room was engulfed with the stench of alcohol. "The hells that smell!" Akihito scrunched his nose. The Hokage gestured to the old man who entered with Iruka. "Diplomatic team, I'd like you all to meet Tazuna." Tazuna drank all his alcohol and looked over at the diplomatic team. "Yo, I'm Tazuna, the great bridge builder of the Land of Waves. Forgive me, Lord Hokage, but don't tell me that these brats are gonna be escorting me back to the Land of Waves." The emo boy looks like he has family issues, the pink banshee looks weak and pathetic, while the blonde one looks like an idiot. When Tazuna finished, he felt a sharp thing near his neck. When looked at where the sharp thing was from, Akihito was already pointing a kunai near his vocal cord. "Don't you dare say those things about me and my teammates. You paid for someone to take you back to the Land of Waves, so here we are. We are going to take you back to the Land of Waves without any scratches. So deal with it, or I'm gonna rip what makes you talk out of you." Kakashi reached over to Akihito and yanked him back, while Akihito was still glaring at Tazuna. "Akihito, don't go killing our client," whispered Kakashi. "Okay, since you are now introduced to the client, your mission is to escort Tazuna to the Land of Waves safe and sound. Make sure he isn't injured or anything. This is your first C-rank mission. You guys have 1 hour to pack up before you leave." The diplomatic team all left to pack what they needed. 1 hour later, after packing everything they needed, the members of the diplomatic team met in front of the Konoha gates. "Hi Sasuke-kun and Akihito-kun. Did you guys finish packing your stuff?" asked Sakura. Sasuke did his famous Uchiha, HN. While Akihito nodded enthusiastically. "I have everything I need, Sakura-chan." Sakura looked confused at Akihito. "But where is it?" Akihito just laughed and told her that it's sealed inside a storage seal. "You know, Sakura-chan, you guys really need to learn this." Sakura and Sasuke nodded and made plans to learn when they have time. By the way, is our sensei late again? Asked Akihito. Actually, no, I made it on time, said Kakashi as he walked beside his students. Kakashi looked at Tazuna and nodded. Okay, let's get going. As the diplomatic team and Tazuna stepped foot outside the Konoha gates, Attendant Jang rushed over to them before they left. Your Royal Highness, you are royalty. If your grandfather hear of this, he will be outraged. Please use the royal carriage. Akihito looked at Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, is it okay to use the royal carriage? Kakashi thought for a moment. I think not, it will attract too much unwanted attention. Akihito nodded and told Attendant Jang to return back to the estate and that he will deal with his grandfather's outrage. Attendant bowed and followed Akihito's orders. He then left with the coachman who came with the royal carriage. Okay, before we go, let's see what you guys got, said Kakashi. I'll go first. I got 450 kunais, 350 shurikens, 20 exploding tags, my handcrafted sword, clothes that could last me probably 5 weeks, soldier's pill, first aid kit, and food, said Akihito. I have my makeup kit, sunscreens, 100 kunais, 25 shurikens, some clothes, and food, said Sakura. I got 450 shurikens, 350 kunais, clothes, and food, said Sasuke. Kakashi nodded. Excellent. However, Sakura, this is a mission, not a vacation. Next time, pack things needed by a ninja, not things needed by a bimbo in the club. Sakura looked down and nodded. I'm sorry Kakashi-sensei, I'll follow your advice. Okay, let's get going. The diplomatic team and Tazuna left Konoha and made their way to the Land of Waves. Secret hideout. A short budgie man made his way into a dark room. I paid you to get rid of that bridge builder, why aren't you doing anything? A man whom was sitting in the shadows with his back to the short budgie man smirked beneath the bandages that obscured his mouth from view. Gato, you're getting impatient. I promise you that I will get rid of the bridge builder permanently. Besides, who can face the demon of the hidden mist without walking away alive? Gato sneered at the man. Well, I paid too much. You need to make sure that he doesn't make it to the Land of Waves alive. The man nodded and ordered his minions to ambush to the bridge builder and his escort first. If they survive, then they will get a rare fight with the demon of the hidden mist. Unknown POV. The messenger who came with the message quickly made his way out. The crown prince has left Konoha with his sensei and his teammates. Now would be a good time to eliminate our beloved prince. 5 masked individuals nodded to the man. But your highness, the crown prince's sensei is Kakashi, the copycat ninja of Konoha. The man nodded. I know, so you have to kill my dear nephew when Kakashi is away. Kill him silently and painlessly. The masked individuals nodded and went to fulfill their mission. The man looked to the map of Kyoto and the palace. Once my nephew and my brother is gone, I will finally inherit what was rightfully mine. The diplomatic team and Tazuna walked down the narrow road. Tazuna-san, can you tell us about the bridge you're building? Asked a curious Sakura. Akihito looked up from his book and looked at Tazuna, waiting for him to tell his story. Tazuna sighed and looked at the annoying little brats. Well, I'm building that bridge so that the people of the Land of Waves can finally be free. Free from who? Said Sakura. Tazuna's eyes hardened. Free from that tyrant, Gato. Tazuna spewed Gato's name with venom. Akihito looked surprised at Tazuna. Gato? As in Gato of Gato Enterprises. That dude is filthy rich. He's listed as one of the most richest men in the world. We kinda have some business dealings with him. Tazuna looked at Akihito and smiled mockingly. That's just his cover. His real business is prostitution and illegal importation, exportation of drugs. He's been controlling the Land of Waves for years, hoarding our resources and draining the Land of Waves from its foundation until there's nothing left. Everyone looked surprised at this. But don't you guys have a daimyo or military forces? Asked Akihito. We had a royal family. But the daimyo made the mistake of having a business deal with Gato. Gato had a business mind, so he didn't want anyone to question his actions, so he planned to eliminate the daimyo. After manipulating the daimyo to send half of his army to the Land of Iron with the pretense of training, he put his plan into action. He hired missing nins and ronins to fight his battles and to take over the Land of Waves. In the end, he killed all of the royal family, down to the last child. He then solidified his rule over the land of waves and forced us, the citizens, to give everything we had to him. Our money, our land, our freedom. What happened to half the military forces that were sent to the land of iron? Asked Kakashi. Those military forces were wiped out by Gato's hired missing nins and ronin before they even got to the land of iron. Everyone looked sad for the situation that the land of waves was in. So they continued the rest of their trip in silence. Hey Akihito, what book are you reading? Asked Kakashi. Akihito looked up from his book. It's a book on the histories of the Senju and Uchiha clan. Kakashi nodded. Interesting. What chapter are you at? I'm at the chapter where Hashirama and Madara have made peace between their clans. Kakashi stopped for a moment. That's common knowledge, why are you rereading it again? I'm rereading it again because it's interesting to see the peace treaty between Hashirama and Madara was from someone else's perspective. Like who? Said Sakura. Like Tobirama Senju, Hashirama's only surviving brother. What about him? He hates the Uchiha to the core, said Sasuke. I know, but what was he thinking at that time when Hashirama and Madara shook hands, signifying the end of the war between the Senju and the Uchiha? Akihito's thoughts. Akihito giggles as the thought of that. He then looked over to his sensei who was still reading that trash called Icha Icha. Seriously, why the hell do people, especially men, like it? What's so great about it anyway? Akihito just shook his head and continued with his team to their destination. All of a sudden 2 individuals jumped out of freaking nowhere and attacked Kakashi. They wrapped their metal gauntlets around Kakashi, fully decapitating him. The diplomatic team and their escort were horrified at the scene in front of them. Their own sensei was murdered in front of their eyes. Sasuke was the first to snap out of his daze and attack these 2 individuals with a fire jutsu. While Sasuke was busy fighting these 2, Sakura went to protect Tazuna. She was standing in front of him holding her kunai and focusing at the battle in front of her. Akihito. He was in a daze. The way Kakashi was decapitated in front of him awoken memories that he worked so hard to forget. Memory 1. In a dark alley, a boy was running for his life from an angry mob of people holding blood kunai, pitchforks, canes, and katana. Catch the demon, yelled one. Burn the demon, yelled the other. We will use his blood to pay tribute for the loss of our family that night, yelled another. The boy got more scared and ran even faster. He made a turn and came face to face with a wall. Tears rolled down his eyes as he looked towards the incoming villagers. The villagers neared him and taunted him. What's wrong, little demon? Nowhere to hide, he laughed creepily. The rest of the villagers joined in and laughed at his words. They then towards the boy and started to stab him, cut him, and burn him. The boy yelled for his life. What is going on here? The villagers looked towards the voice and saw that it was the Hokage. They abandoned what they were doing and began to run for their lives. Anbu, catch all of them and send them to Ibiki and Anko. The Anbu headed their Hokage's orders and ran after the escaping villagers. The Hokage looked towards the boy with sadness in his eyes. Memory 2. Why are you doing this? The villagers just scoffed and stalked slowly towards him. The boy's eyes held total fear. He looked everywhere for an escape. But there were none. The villagers then started to attack him, and they did the same thing they do to him every time. They stab, they burn, and cut him. Bitterness filled him, and as he looked towards them his bitterness grew tenfold. Unknowingly he tapped into the power of the beast within him. Bloodlust clouded his judgment and he slaughtered those villagers mercilessly. After killing all of them he felt a familiar chakra signature with a few others. He turned to look and saw his Jiji. His Jiji looked at him with alarming and worrying eyes. His eyes felt heavy and then darkness overcame him. A few hours later and he awoke in a hospital room. He saw his Jiji giving orders to not letting that happened last night known public. What happened last night, I thought. Jiji looked towards me and hugged me tight. Naruto, I was so worried. I hugged him back. Jiji, what happened last night? I asked confusingly. Jiji looked at me with wide eyes. You don't remember anything? I shook my head. He somehow looked relieved and told me that it was nothing. Final memory. A boy was tied to a chair and 3 chunin and 4 genins were surrounding him. So what do we do to demons again, Tiko? He smiled. The rest of his companions laughed and took out their kunais. Let's give him something he'll never forget, a permanent reminder of what he is. They took out their kunais and started to carve out the word, demon, on his back. The boy screamed for them to stop, but they didn't. His screams were agonizing and heart-wrenching. When they finished carving the word on his back, they proceeded to punch him. They then left, laughing at their accomplishment. Memory end. Akihito unconsciously activates his Sharingan and looked towards the two individuals. He then attacked them and helped Sasuke fight them. Sasuke was surprised when he saw another Uchiha jump out of nowhere to come and help him. This Uchiha looked to be his age, and he looked unfamiliar. But they still fought the two individuals. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu, yelled Sasuke. Earth style. Earth spikes, yelled Akihito. Akihito and Sasuke were too focused on one of these individuals that they didn't see the other sneak up on them. He reached behind Sasuke and was about to stab him when Akihito jumped and pushed away Sasuke just in time. He took the blade to his stomach. Then Kakashi appeared out of thin air and attacked these two individuals and subdued them. He then tied them up to a tree while they were still knocked out. Kakashi then looked towards Akihito, who now returned to normal. Akihito was bleeding badly, and he needed medical aid immediately. Darkness. All I saw was darkness. Void and empty. It stretched out for miles, but it was only covered in darkness. Where am I? I looked around confused. Suddenly the ground shook and the darkness morphed into a beautiful and magnificent room. The room walls were maroonish with gold linings. On the ceiling hung crystal-clear chandeliers that seemed to always sparkle with each passing moments. On the maroon walls hung Uzumaki flags with a couple of weapons on display. Akihito Shinji, or should I say Naruto Uzumaki, came a velvety voice. I turned around and at the far side of the room on top of a couple of stairs was a long table with 10 thrones behind them. On those 10 thrones were handsome-looking men with red hair. They wore different style of clothes signifying the different eras in which they reigned. They looked regal and prestigious. I walked towards them warily, looking around to see if there were any guards or someone else. I looked back to them. Some of them looked amused while others looked more serious. I arrived in front of them. Who are you, dudes? That same velvety voice came again. Akihito Shinji, or should I say Naruto Uzumaki. You have been summoned here to the Uzumaki realm by the Uzumaki Grand Council. Uzumaki Grand, what now? The same velvety voice was about to say something when a more gruff and deep voice interrupted. Listen here, brat. You have been summoned to stand before the Uzumaki Grand Council since you are the last Uzumaki royal alive. Before you ask, the Uzumaki Grand Council is the governing body of the Uzumaki realm. Think of it like some sort of daimyo, but instead of the daimyo there's a council made up of past Uzumaki daimyos. Got it. Akihito nodded his head very fast that it looked like it will fall off. Then another man stood up and made his way towards Akihito. Allow me to introduce myself first. I am Whirlpool Daimyo Akane Uzumaki. The Uchiha-like man on the far right corner is Kenshin Uzumaki. Next to him is Ryu Uzumaki. He is more into romance novels, that's why he reads too much. The other is Ren Uzumaki, the hot-headed one out of all of us. Then there's Daichi, he is the serious one. There's Haru, the quietest and most patient one. The sour-looking man over there is Hideki, he's kinda boring. There is Hiroshi, he kinda looks feminine because he was born during the War of the Daimyo and his father didn't want him to suffer the injustices of this world, so he was raised like a girl. That one is Q, he is the most mischievous one. Finally, there is Ken, he is kinda of like the warrior daimyo who always trains too much. Akihito couldn't believe what he was hearing. He was summoned by a council made up of the greatest Uzumaki daimyos to have ever reigned the land of Whirlpool. Akihito looked dumbfounded. Are you guys serious right now? Ren was irritated so nodded his head to confirm Akihito's question. Akihito was super duper happy. He had a lot of questions he wanted to ask. I have so many questions. What happened during the siege of Osaka? Did Prince Ru of the Land of Fire really manage to kill Prince Chen of Whirlpool? Akihito had so many questions, but they were all halted when Daichi raised his hand. I know you have many questions, young one. But now is not the time, our time is limited, so listen up. You are the chosen one, as is described in the ancient book of legends. You are meant to bring peace in our war-torn world. You will bring peace and order, but not without help, said Hiroshi. As the legends have foretold, you need the strength and loyalty of the lost one but the courage and fierceness of the uncertain one, said Ryu while still reading his book of romance. The lost one and uncertain one. I don't understand? Akihito scrunched his eyebrows in confusion. Who are they? Young Naruto, the answers you seek will be granted when you answer the riddle of the vortex, said Q. Our time is running out. Go to the land of whirlpools, answer the riddle of the vortex, and when you pass the blood seal we will meet again. But first I am giving you this for your protection. Until we meet again, said Ren. Suddenly the majestic room started to fade away. Akihito opened his eyes and came face to face with Sakura pumping chakra into him. When Sakura saw Akihito's eyes open, she sighed a huge sigh of relief. He was alive. Akihito was alive. How long was I out? Said Akihito. You have been out for 2 hours, said Sakura. Akihito looked surprised. That weird dream or whatever made it feel like eternity. Then he felt something on his hand. When he looked down, it was a sword. Actually, 2 freaking swords? They looked identical to each other, but they were different versions of each other. One was longer while the other was shorter. Akihito was amazed at what he saw. Whoa, these swords look awesome. Kakashi widened in eyes with both astonishment and fear. He had recognized the sword from the history books. Akihito looked at Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, is something wrong? Do you recognize these swords? Actually I do. Those 2 swords are the Shinigami no Ken, sword of the death god. It is said that the swords were forged by the death god himself. A long time ago he gifted these swords to one of your ancestors for reasons unknown to non-Uzumaki people. The swords are believed to hold half of the death god's power. When wielded by the Uzumaki royals, the swords are said to rain death and destruction onto the land. When Kakashi finished, everyone literally had the jaws on the ground, except for Sasuke, whose scowl now looked deeper and darker. When everyone got their jaws back up, Kakashi ordered them to move on. They needed to reach the land of waves before dark, and it's getting close to dark. They continued on, but Sasuke kept sending glances towards Akihito, but more to his swords. The longer one was held by Akihito on his right hand while the smaller one was strapped on his back. But one question remained in Sasuke's head. Why did Akihito have the Sharingan when he is clearly not an Uchiha? Hey Sasuke, did you get hurt? Asked a concerned Akihito. He just remembered that he was injured and ordered to save Sasuke. Sasuke looked at him. Akihito's sweat dropped. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Sakura sent a curious glance at Akihito. But Akihito-kun, why did you save Sasuke? You guys never got along, you are neither friends nor enemies, so why did you save him? Akihito was also surprised. Now that you mentioned it, I don't even know why I saved him. It was just instinct. Something in my mind told me that I needed to save him. Sakura looked thoughtful. Suddenly the forest started to get foggy, then a large sword came their way. Kakashi went into full battle mode and went to deflect the sword. When the swords deflected, it went and got stuck onto a nearby tree. Suddenly a tall figure appeared and stood on the sword. Kakashi Hitaki, it is an honor to be fighting the famed copy ninja of Konoha, came the voice. It sent shivers down the diplomatic team's back, even to Zuna. When the mist started to get clearer, they could finally see who the person was. Mr. Moo Moo Man? Zabuza Momochi. Akihito and Kakashi yelled in unison. Zabuza turned to Akihito. What did you call me, brat? Zabuza was pissed some little brat had called him a cow. He was a freaking missing nin. The demon of the hidden mist and one of the 7 legendary swordsmen of Kirigakure no Sato. But to have a kid call him a freaking cow, now that was the last straw. Brat, I am going to kill you first, yelled a very pissed off Zabuza. Zabuza got unstrapped his sword from the tree and jumped straight for Akihito. Kakashi intercepted him and fought with him. Your fight is with me. Akihito, Sasuke, Sakura, protect Tazuna, said Kakashi. He then went and fought Zabuza. Master, there are several individuals hiding in the trees, came a mysterious voice. Akihito jumped frightened out of his wits. Who's there? Show yourself. Suddenly 10 masked individuals jumped down from the trees. The diplomatic team looked towards them. They readied their weapons. Crown Prince Akihito, prepared to meet the Shinigami, yelled the assassin. The assassins then attacked them all. Swords and kunais hitting each other. Akihito activated his Sharingan and attacked the incoming assassins. Sakura kept throwing multiple shurikens towards the assassins, multiplying them using the Shadow Shuriken Jutsu. Akihito was also doing well. he summoned his clones and attacked the incoming assassins. Some could say he got this all under control, while Sasuke was feeling the pressure. More and more of the assassins were attacking him. He kept throwing all the kunai and shurikens he had until there were none left. So he resorted to using jutsu. Fire style. Raging firestorm. The assassins got burned by the fire jutsu. Sasuke was now all out of chakra. Slash, stab. Sasuke vomited out blood. He looked down and saw a dagger stab him in the heart from behind. When he turned around he saw an assassin who was burned beyond recognition. The assassin's deformed face creepily smiled at Sasuke. "See you in hell, Crown Prince Akihito," said the dying assassin. Akihito and Sakura arrived just in time to hear the assassin's final words. The assassins has mistaken Sasuke to be Akihito. They have thought that Sasuke was Akihito. That was why they have attacked Sasuke relentlessly. Akihito and Sakura went to catch Sasuke's falling body. They caught just in time before he fell down completely. Sasuke coughed out blood, his eyes blinking feverishly. Suddenly his eyesight was getting murky. Akihito could feel Sasuke's life slipping away faster than ever. "Sakura, do everything you can to keep Sasuke alive." Sakura nodded and turned to the dying. He turned to 10 more assassins that have suddenly appeared out of nowhere. "Master, use me," came the strange voice. Akihito was so overcome with guilt that he gave in to the mysterious voice temptation. He unsheathed the 2 swords and pointed them towards the assassins. "You come here, ruined my first goddamn mission and you injured my friend who is now near death. I will never forgive any of you." The assassins attacked Akihito together. The first assassin threw kunais at Akihito. Akihito deflected them and made them hit the other assassins. The power of the swords were too powerful that it took over Akihito. Now Akihito was not himself. Akihito closed his eyes and focused on something, then he reopened his eyes. But now he looked different from his original form and his Sharingan form. This wasn't Akihito at all, this was someone different. The remaining assassins stood in shock. "Who are you?" asked one assassin. The stranger looked at the assassins coldly. He then replied in a velvety, smooth, and cold voice, "I have become death, destroyer of worlds. I am the harbinger of death." The strange man lifted his hand and the assassins were lifted off from the ground. He then crushed his hand and the assassins were all crushed. Internal organs and blood were splattered on the forest floor. He then looked towards Kakashi and Zabuza who were still fighting. Meanwhile at the battle between K and Z. "Are you copying me? Are you copying me?" Kakashi and Zabuza said in unison. They looked at each other with hate. Their battle went on for a few more minutes when Zabuza finally managed to trap Kakashi in a water sphere. "Now that you're trapped inside my water sphere, I am going to get rid of your troublesome genins, especially that brat who dared to call me cow, and I am going to get rid of that bridge builder permanently." As Zabuza finished his ultimate speech, the strange man appeared in front of Zabuza and kicked him in the crown jewels. Zabuza yelled and touched his poor crown jewels who are now sore and aching. Zabuza dropped down on the ground and moaned painfully. "What the hell was that for? Are you a sadist or something?" yelled Zabuza. The stranger flashed a very charming and seductive smile. "I enjoyed the way you moaned in pain. It actually gives me pleasure and it makes my friend excited." Zabuza yelled in fear of this madman. Then his scream was cut off when he was hit by a senbon. His body fell lifelessly on the ground. A hunter nin appeared out of nowhere and took Zabuza's body. "I am a hunter nin sent from the hidden mist village to kill Zabuza Momochi. But thanks to you my job isn't difficult anymore. I will head back to my village with his body." "Again, thank you." The stranger pouted. "Aw man, I was just getting started, but oh well. Fate is a bitch anyway." The hunter nin left with Zabuza's body. Then Kakashi walked slowly to the stranger. "Who are you?" The stranger just looked at Kakashi. "I am sorry, but I am not allowed to tell you that. You must ask my master, he will answer your questions." The stranger then walked towards Sasuke's body. Sakura was still pumping chakra into Sasuke. This was the only thing that was keeping Sasuke's from death's door. The stranger kneeled in front of Sasuke and asked Sakura to stop. Sakura took her hands away. The stranger then cut his hand and put it over Sasuke's mouth. He uttered some ancient spells and blood was dripping into Sasuke's mouth. "Thy death god, your humble servant has offered you sacrifices of death. All I ask of you is to spare the life of one, Sasuke Uchiha." A few minutes passed, then Sasuke coughed uncontrollably and took in heaps of air. He looked around as to see if he was really alive. The stranger was then enveloped in a beam of light. He then turned into an all-familiar person. "Akihito!" yelled Kakashi. Akihito dropped onto the ground unconscious. Fire Daimyo POV. The Fire Daimyo was currently in his office, looking over some state files. He was enjoying his cup of tea when he suddenly heard screaming coming from the royal courtyard. He put his tea down and went to the balcony. When he looked down, what he saw made his heart stop. Down below was chaos. Masked individuals were pouring in from the eastern gates, slaughtering anyone and anything in their way. The royal guards were trying their best to subdue, but I can tell that it won't last long. All of a sudden the doors to the royal office slammed open. I looked to see who it was and saw that it was Long Fei and his trusted men coming in. "Long Fei, what is going on?" I said. Long Fei bowed. "Your Majesty, it seems to be a coup d'état." I gasped and scrunched my eyebrows. This hasn't happened in over 1,000 years. "Do you know who the mastermind behind this?" Long Fei shook his head. "No, Your Majesty. Although I have a person in mind." "Who is it?" "My best guess it's Prince." Boom. All of a sudden an explosion came from outside the courtyard. Me and Long Fei rushed to the balcony. Below the courtyard, someone emerged from behind the fire curtain that now covered the area. "Prince Keiko," I said, horrified. He walked to the center of the now destroyed courtyard and looked up to me and pointed his sword. "Brother, after years of living in your shadow, facing the humiliation, torment, and hatred of others, I have finally returned to take what was rightfully mine, the throne." After finishing his ultimate speech, he ordered his assassins to capture me alive. "Your Majesty, now would be the time to go," said Long Fei. "Go where?" "Your Majesty, we need to go the royal bunker. You would be safe there." My eyes went wide when Long Fei finished. "What? Are you telling me I need to run and hide like a coward? As hundreds, possibly thousands of my people are getting slaughtered out there?" Long Fei immediately goes to his knees. "Your Majesty, please, I know you care for the welfare of our people. However, this is a coup d'état. Without the sovereign there is no country. Our #1 priority is to protect you. If you go to the royal bunker you will still be able to rule from there." When he finished, clanging noises could be heard from outside the office doors. They were getting near. "Your Majesty, please, we need to go. The assassins are getting nearer," begged Long Fei. I nodded my head. "Let's go." I walked to the wall and bit my thumb and slashed on a seal on the wall. The wall opened up, revealing a lighted pathway. "There they are," yelled an assassin. Long Fei signaled for his men to deal with those assassins. We then walked inside. When we were all inside, the wall then closed behind us. "Let us go." Royal bunker. We finally arrived inside the royal bunker. Luckily this place is always cleaned. I went and sit on the chair and ordered Long Fei to bring me some paper and ink and also his most trusted and skilled man. Long Fei brought the paper and ink and introduced his most trusted and skilled man. I thanked him and began writing a letter for the Hokage. "Lord Hokage, I write to you, for this is an urgent matter. Kyoto has fallen. My brother, Prince Keiko, has attacked my palace and has seized control over the capital. I order you to protect my grandson and make sure nothing happens to him. But for now, I order you to send us help immediately. My most trusted advisor, Long Fei, will be waiting for reinforcements on the border beneath the hidden catacombs." Signed, Tenno Shinji, 115th Fire Daimyo of the Land of Fire. After I finished writing the letter and put it in a sealed scroll and ordered the man to deliver it to the Hokage. "Listen, you are delivering a very important letter. Make sure it doesn't fall into the hands of the enemy. Deliver it straight to the Hokage. Avoid using the main roads, travel using the passageways beneath the capital." The man nodded and left immediately. Throne room. Prince Keiko POV. Bodies of servants and soldiers littered the throne room as me and my men came inside the throne room. It's been years since I returned to the palace. After being banished by my own father to roam the vast wastelands of the Land of Fire, I made a promise that I will return and wreak havoc to them. I spent my entire life gathering allies and hiring men to work for me. Finally, all my hard work had been paid off. My brother has run and hide like the coward he is. His only heir and grandson has been murdered, and my other sibling are weak to make another move on me. I walked up the throne and sat on it. I felt power rushing through me. This must be how it felt to have all the power in the world. Bow down to your supreme ruler, I yelled. All of my men bowed and yelled out, "Long live Fire Daimyo Keiko." Finally my dream has been fulfilled.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.